Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We're the movie podcast that tries to take every Monday, make it a fun day, as we also travel around all 50 states of these United States and try to find one movie to define each one of them. But today is a very special episode because today is the day we take down our 50th state. Guys, we've done it. We've done the entirety of the United States of America. So let me welcome back these fellas that have gone on this ridiculous journey with me before we get started. First of all, Ryan Sandler, as always, sitting there with your mighty beard. Welcome back to the show.
It is so great to be here. And I was talking to someone else about this, and I feel like we've done like a literal road trip around all 50 states watching some of the worst movies we've ever seen. It's crazy.
There were some bangers in there as well. There were random deer heads in fridges. We've had just slow motion. We've had swamp things. We've had giant spider invasions. We've had peculiarly two topless women doing their best thinking in a hot tub. It has been an adventure. On along for that ride as well as always, now sitting in the middle of his very own video store, Will Hirsch. Buddy, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here. And now that we've done the United States, we have conquered it. It is now our country. We make all the rules, and I've declared myself king of Idaho. So that's legally binding, Idaho. You have to listen to me now.
I was gonna say each movie that won each state is now their official state flag, and
that's I like that. Yeah, that's an absolute banger.
So, and I currently live in Stone Cold, wherever that movie was set. I don't remember.
We're I think.
Yes.
It's one of those, I think. Yeah, we have been on quite the adventure. We were just talking about it before we started recording about trying to figure out just how much time we've invested in this podcast over just over a year. I mean, it's nearly 160 movies, if not more.
Yeah, at least.
Because we did have some specials, we had some challenge episodes, we've had some great guests on as the season has gone on as well. But today, guys, we take down our final state, the state of Utah. And we actually, we picked 3 very different movies.
I love when we do these diverse episodes.
Yeah, this was a week where, I mean, just 3 movies that they intersect because of Utah, but they have nothing in common whatsoever. We have an awesome 90s action movie directed by a titan of action cinema at the time. We have an indie movie out of Salt Lake City that was very peculiar. And we had an adorable little New Zealand movie that takes us to the salt flats of Utah as well. I can't even remember who picked what movie. I think I picked the New Zealand movie, the Roger Donaldson movie.
For sure.
The third Roger Donaldson movie we have had on the show. Dante's Peak, No Way Out, and now The World's Fastest Indian, a 2005 movie starring Anthony Hopkins and other people. But basically, it's an Anthony Hopkins movie. And it was charming as hell.
Yeah, just like his other movie, Species, just adorable. a real sweetheart of a film.
I would say this one's sexier, but you know,
that is true.
It does tell the story of Anthony Hopkins, a man getting up there in age at the time who is absolutely irresistible, be it charm with people at TSA or immigration or rule followers or people and everything else, but also every woman wants to bang him.
Yeah.
Even men dressed as women want to bang him. The guy is basically a stud muffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was wild to see. I mean, I think I said on the text thread, it had like these elements of like the guy that created this, it's because it's a true story based on him, had all as in his travels had these like little anecdotes that they just ballooned into these very larger than life scenes. And I was there for it. I loved it.
Me too. It was great.
Yeah. It was very strange. You said it in the text thread that it was very Forrest Gumpian.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I totally agree with. But yeah, I think the only thing about this movie that grated on me after a while, because I really did enjoy it, was just Anthony Hopkins' character just doesn't hear
Oh my
anybody the first
God.
time.
Thank you.
And that was
drove me
driving me
fucking
crazy.
nuts.
Just it was all like, hey Bert, huh? Like,
Yeah,
okay.
I get that it was a plot device that he is hard of hearing, but they do it constantly and it became kind of great.
Every line of dialogue, and this is very dialogue heavy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but
I liked it. I liked
utterly
it.
charming film.
He's yeah. So I texted the guys. I said much like this film, much like the character. It's just like a, it's just constantly surprising, constantly charming, and constantly winning you over. That by the end of it, honestly, hashtag spoiler alert. But I was definitely feeling like it was gonna go bad, and it sells a really good dummy at the end, where I was like, oh shit, and then you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, that I think in a weird way, this movie is surprising in like how unsurprising all the events go, because you just keep expecting like, oh, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem, and then it's always like, oh no, actually this turned out to be okay.
I mean,
this
it's like every other scene it's quite the roller coaster, because anytime he moves one step forward, it's two steps back. Like it's but at the same time, like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And then he gets through, like, how is he going to overcome this hurdle?
He can talk his way out of a ticket. He can talk his way into a cheaper car. He can talk any women out of their panties. This guy, should have run for Prime Minister of New Zealand. So it tells the story of Bert Munro. Bert Munro is a genuine guy from New Zealand, from the teeny tiny little place of Invercargill. I was going to do it in a Kiwi accent, but then I realized that at no point does Anthony Hopkins do what.
No. And that's why I said, like, it was great, like, for everyone being a Kiwi in this film to not cast Sam Neill as the main actor. I mean, I get a studio would be like, no, we got to get Hopkins in here.
2005 Sam Neill, I would say probably a bit too young to Bert Munro, and you'd probably have to age him up a little bit. But yeah, basically it tells the story of Bert Munro, who's got this old Indian. My missus was like, she's always wanted to see it. And she goes, and she came up to me and she asked, because I watched it while she was at work, and she's like, look, I have to ask, what's with the whole, like, Anthony Hopkins as an Indian? I go, oh, no. It's a motorbike. But I remember when I first saw the poster for that movie, I go, that's a bit weird. Then you watch the trailer, like, oh, I understand.
It would be funny if they just dressed him up as a Native American and he's just running. There's no motorcycle.
Right. Just, man, that guy is fast. Yeah.
There was a Native American, though. We did have Native Americans turn up in this movie. And guess what? He charms the pants off them as well. Basically, it tells the story of a legend from New Zealand who has a 1920s Indian Scout motorcycle that for many, many years he's just been tinkering with and having some fun with, and getting faster and faster and faster, and about how he's always had a dream to go to the Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah, the world famous place in Utah where you can find just how fast and how brave you are. And it's like you're saying, it's a little bit Forrest Gumpian, it's a little bit Rudy. Everyone's rooting for him as you're watching the movie. And then as the movie goes on, everyone in the movie is just rooting for him. And I said, I got to the end of the movie, and I said to Mrs. as well, I said, the movie was a perfect example about how, as in America, having a quirky accent and a bit of charm, you can get away with fucking murder. And it's so true.
Yes.
That hit real close to home, didn't it?
10 years in America, like the amount of that I've taught myself out of, like, definitely reckless endangerment when I was speeding, but I did a bit of charm, a bit of a British accent, and like all of the sort of the shenanigans and the things that you can, like, it genuinely, this movie was like a documentary in that regard.
See, I get into trouble because I do the Rooster Cogburn voice. I go the opposite way, and I get in more trouble.
Well,
you can't pull me over. It ain't illegal to drink and drive. No, it's very illegal.
That explains your 12th DUI.
It's been a while since we've had Rooster Cogburn on the show.
Welcome back.
Yeah, it's good to have him back.
Good to be back. Yeah.
Never left, always in our hearts.
What did Rooster think of the world's fastest Indian, Will?
Well, I don't know if I want to say Indian in that voice. I was about to do it, and then I was like, wait, hold on. Pull back. We'll put Rooster away for talking about anything to do with Native Americans.
Flying a little too close to the sun there.
Yeah. Danger close, everybody.
So, something, Will, you mentioned right before we started rolling, I was quite surprised. You haven't seen any of the movies, right?
No, yeah, this is the first time. I thought maybe I'd seen SLC Punk. It was Scooby Doo is what I was thinking of, so
Right.
a little far off on that. But yeah, this is my first go around on all of these.
So this was, but I'm going to say, so no one's ever watched The World's Fastest Indian, right?
No.
Okay, you know
No.
guys that ever heard of it? Because it's been
heard of
sitting in
it,
my
yeah.
queue forever. Like,
It seemed like it seemed very like Disney to me, like a
right.
live action Disney film, you know.
You weren't quite sure what you were going to be getting. Is it just going to be schmaltzy or something? But
It was,
like,
yeah,
I
and
love
it was,
Anthony
but
Hopkins.
that's the thing is he makes the role so charming that you're kind of glued to his little antics. You know?
Yeah, I have a little bit of affection for this, even though I had not seen it, because when I worked at Hollywood Video, this was on the new release wall for like an entire year, just because we needed something to fill out the W's. So it was on there forever. So I was so familiar with like the DVD cover.
It was that and the movie W, the George Bush.
Yeah.
Just
those were the two. Those were the two things that were up. Yeah.
But I do like it's another one of the cases where we've had a few times during the show where it's a movie I've always wanted to watch and I've been looking for an excuse to watch it, and so it's like finally I'm like, great, now I get to watch the World's Fastest
stars
Indian.
aligned, yeah.
And it's so weird. I mean, at any point in the last sort of like since 20 years, I could have put this movie on. I just didn't. You know, but it's like, oh no, I have to have a movie for Utah. This is the movie I've always wanted to see. This is what we're doing.
And it kind of makes you take a different perspective on watching it too. You know, it's not like you kind of forces you to be in the mindset to take it all in. Like I watched this movie, I didn't touch my phone. I was just glued to it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a movie that doesn't. It's just a fun ride from beginning to end, and we'll get back to it. We will get back to it. But we'll quickly talk about the other movies that we chose this week as well. One of them that Will just mentioned. I think Ryan, this was your choice. Never heard of this movie in my life. But go for it. Tell us about it.
It was I picked SLC Punk from, was it
98. I was surprised. 98. I was surprised that it wasn't a 94 movie.
Because it's set in it's set in the 80s in Salt Lake and the whole punk scene. And again, this was just a movie that was probably on cable quite a bit, and I caught it, and I feel like it's become quite a bit of a cult classic, or it just kind of has that feel to it. I probably haven't seen it in 20 years, but it popped into my mind as like, oh, I remember really enjoying this movie. It's very different from movies I was watching back then. It kind of had like, you know, you have Matthew Lillard breaking the fourth wall. It's got this weird kind of Goodfellas kind of tone to it. It's just different and unique, and I really enjoyed it. And I was worried watching it again. I was like, is it going to be Utah enough? And I think it is. It captures like a different kind of side of it, you know.
Well, I mean, see, that's the interesting thing about the three movies that we've got, as varied as they are. But they also show us all different parts, different ideas of Utah. Like with The World's Fastest Indian, the idea that while the movie starts in New Zealand, it's all about the iconography of the salt flats in Utah, where the world's fastest, records have been set, that it's world famous, that a guy's always wanted to go there. So I was like, actually, this is pretty cool. And then, like Ryan is saying, SLC Punk is very much like Salt Lake City, and getting into the nuances of like living just there. And then the other movie that we've got is very much kind of just like goes to the beauty spots of Utah. Like it's a postcard for Utah, even though it was, when you look into it, shot in 5 different states. But it's at the same time, it's giving us a varied look. So, like, Will, had you ever heard of this movie? Because for me, like, I was a blank on this one.
Yeah, no, I've definitely heard of this one. This is one that played a lot on like the independent film channel, like IFC, way back in the day, like all the time. I think I caught bits and pieces of it, but I hadn't seen the whole thing. IFC I typically stayed away from because that's how I saw Train Spotting for the first time, and I saw that like before Star Wars Episode 1 came out, and so I was really young, and I was like, I don't know if I should be watching this channel. This is pretty crazy. But
it's funny you should mention Train Spotting, because I was going to say that SLC Punk very much feels like Utah trying to do Train Spotting.
Very, very much so, yeah.
Same vibe, same frenetic nature, same pauses, same voiceover, and like you know, I could see the ending. I was like, well, okay, one of these two guys is
something not great's gonna happen. Yeah.
Right.
But like,
But
so Will, but what did you think of it? Because I'm like, I am not sure about this movie. I was like enjoying it, but I feel like it was trying. It was like as frenetic as the main character, as random as the main character. And I had to pause it quickly to talk to Mrs. And I'm like, God, is this a 2-hour movie? And it must be nearly done. I was like, oh, it's only been an hour and 10 minutes. There's 30 minutes to go. I was like, oh shit, because
it's
so much is happening.
Yeah.
yeah, it is one of those movies where I did enjoy it quite a lot, but it does, for as frenetic as it is, it does kind of meander for like the first half hour or so. And it takes a while before it's like, oh, wait, we're supposed to be doing a plot. Okay, there's like
Yeah.
actual something.
Right.
It's very
So
vignette-y. Like there's
Yes,
just
it
kind of
is.
like little things
yeah,
because they're telling stories of these characters, and it cuts to like a flashback or a a vision of this story, and then to just kind of because they're introducing so many different characters and they all have these insane fucking backstories.
Yeah, and it can't
yeah,
tell if it's trying to be serious or funny. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like well, it's just it's very
Yeah.
much sort of so as Ryan
It's
was
like
saying.
Train Spotting. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right.
but it tells
mhm,
the story of Steve-O and his best friend heroin Bob, punks 1985 in Utah. And then like what as far as plot goes, kind of like sort of Will says, is it? I mean, it's mostly just an exploration of being a punk in
mhm.
the 80s with a sort of a bit of a heightened sense and a bit of a randomness to it. I mean, there's all kinds of people turning up in the movie as well, like
Mhm.
Jason Segel, very young
Yeah,
Jason Segel. I liked his character;
Mhm.
he was quite
it is
interesting.
great
And
because
Till Schweiger, of all people,
Till fucking Schweiger with the most insane monologue reading
yeah,
I've ever heard of, because he's got his backstory is he's wealthy because his family was killed in a plane crash that he was also in. And he
Right.
goes into explicit detail describing.
Yeah.
Right.
It's quite horrifying. And I was texting you guys like that character especially like he performed great, but made me very nervous because I've definitely known one or two people like
Yeah.
that, especially when I was working at the movie theaters in high school. There was that guy was reminding me of a couple very specific people who always made me very,
Yeah.
very nervous.
Yeah.
And yeah, that when once he actually left the movie, I felt like
Yeah.
all of a sudden a plot started,
Yeah.
which was very strange.
yeah.
Like,
In the last 30 minutes, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you kind of like they had that other punk character, and it gives you that quite funny moment where he's selling acid outside. And then he goes running in the rain. And then you had that incredible shot of the acid. We go through his trousers.
Yeah.
We
The
see the acid.
muscle.
yeah,
Then we go under his skin and see the acid in his muscles.
That
And you're
was
like, oh,
crazy.
that's funny. And then, no, that guy's story is tragic. He tries to kill his mother, goes insane. The next time we see him, he's panhandling. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So this movie,
Yeah.
you don't
It's not a
quite know where the
happy
movie's
movie.
going.
Yeah. No. It's a very like
no.
MTV generational kind of film, like for that time
It's
period.
it's also crazy that it's not produced by MTV. It's not
Yeah.
one of their films. That's like the craziest part to me.
Mm,
Yeah, so it's
sure.
written and directed by James Meredino. It's in ways like he says it's not semi-auto. It's like not a biography, not autobiography, but the people in the movie are very much inspired by people he knew, situations that happened, and things like that.
You can tell
Um,
too. Like it feels
Yeah.
like that. These
yeah,
characters
and I
are
think
pretty
it's I'd
fleshed
never
out.
really heard of James Meredino, but like it says, oh, he's a filmmaker. But then you get into it, I'm like, oh, he is a filmmaker. He's made a shit ton of movies, very often writing and directing them. But they're all in the sort of like the sort of cheaper realm,
Mm,
the more sort of like indie realm. He's just like he's got stories to tell. He's going to tell them, but he's definitely not in the studio system in any way. I think
Mhm.
this seems to be the one that he's most known for.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely
definitely.
like when you look him up, it's like, but like he started off with a, what was it 1991 Witchcraft for the Virgin Heart, and then,
I prefer Witchcraft 3, but
Mm,
yeah,
yeah.
and then I mean, yeah, he's worked with kind of alongside Lars von Trier, co-production with Alan Arkin and Claire Forlani. He's just kind of on the
He's around. Yeah.
yeah, he's
Mhm.
around, but like he's making his movies and he's got his own unique sort of flavor. But
Which I
yeah,
like. I think it speaks to the charm of this kind of charm, but the
Mhm.
the fingerprint of this film, the DNA.
Yeah.
well, okay, there's
Mm.
one more movie we need to talk about as well, like to get into, where we're talking Utah, we were looking at the movies, and I was sort of like, suggesting that, all right, probably the low-hanging fruit that we should go for is there is a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, and then Will came in the text thread with, I don't frickin' think so, and came in with a banger. Tell us about your pick, Will.
Yeah, I picked a Broken Arrow from one of the best action directors of all time, despite what recent movies would have you believe. But this is like peak 90s, like, okay, I've come over to America, John Woo.
Yeah.
You know, let me show all you guys how to make an action film.
Mhm.
And it
we were
ruled.
all in.
Yeah.
I went to the theater to see this movie, and I was not disappointed. It's got everything you want from John Woo, apart from Nicolas Cage. This movie.
Yeah. I was wondering why. I was like, but I mean, I always remember this movie with Christian Slater, but this watch, because this came up, this was before not Con Air, Face Off, right?
Face Off.
A few years, like by 2 years. But I was like, there's just something charming and like youthful about Christian Slater in this film. Like he just reads like good guy. It was either that or maybe like a John Cusack, I guess, could be that kind of
in Con Air.
Yeah.
No, I liked him with Slater. Like,
I like it,
he's had a few. Like, I liked him. I've always liked him. I think he's good in this movie as well. But like, this is 96, so Hard Boiled, which Will and I have been texting about, but I don't think, honestly, I will argue until I'm red in the face with anyone, the greatest action movie. Yeah. I think just like
so good.
So far, it is so dangerous. You're watching it convinced real guns are being used and people are gonna die. It's just iconic. Followed up by his move to America, Hard Target, one that we circled but didn't do.
I like that movie.
That is a good one, right?
I love it.
It's bonkers.
Jean-Claude Van Damme kicks somebody off a moving motorcycle and then steals it. It rules.
Slow motion curly mullet as well. Like just
yeah.
But this one, it gives us, with Broken Arrow, we're getting just John Travolta just chewing on every line, just having a ball. And these are lines I still use to this day. I quote this movie quite a lot. It's just when I'm trying to get someone to be quiet, it's hush, hush. And like, I say, goddamn, what a rush, and all this kind of stuff.
That line reading is so fucking insane. Like, because most of the film, he's this like very like level-headed, calm, like unassuming.
Level-headed?
Well, I'm just saying, like the way he's like reading these lines, but then it just like at the snap, he'll just drop some insane line reading.
Yeah, and it's slow motion characters walking.
And great cigarette smoking in this. I don't smoke cigarettes, but I was like, I really wanted to fucking smoke cigarettes real bad.
Don't know what John Travolta is doing with it, but man, it looks cool.
He's doing something cool with his fingers, and I am on board. You've got that great, and it's something I always remembered as well. It's like I can just pull it out of my head anytime, but it's Hans Zimmer's.
Yeah, so much so that we were able to pinpoint, like, it was this fucking earworm in my brain. I'm like, I know this guitar sting from something besides this movie, and I went down a rabbit hole to try and find out what it was, and I come to believe it was Dewey's theme from Scream 2. Like, they just used the exact same song. Like I sent it to you guys. It's fucking crazy. It's
awesome.
Not at all what I was expecting it to be from. It might even be from something else, but it's crazy. It's so iconic.
I will say this much. I want to save Broken Arrow for last, because I do want to get into this movie, but I'm going to segue us away from Broken Arrow. I'm going to take us on a little adventure. I'm going to start this adventure. I'm going to start this adventure with SLC Punk. All right, we're going to start off with some hard
the most
drugs.
Normal movie.
Most normal.
Yeah.
Well, then we're going to segue. We're going to build up some speed with the world's fastest Indian, and then we're going to finish off by blowing everything up awesomely in Broken Arrow. And I say, goddamn, what a rush it will be. So yeah, let's get back into SLC Punk, because that was it's a movie that I'm sitting there going, okay, I like what they're doing. I see what they're doing. Am I enjoying myself? Was kind of a question I was asking. It's because, like, as much as you said, Ryan, that like with the world's fastest Indian, didn't touch your phone. SLC Punk, after the first sort of hour, there was a little bit of like glancing at my phone, what the time was, kind of thing. And I'm just like, what about you, Will? Were you similarly ensnared, or were you also sort of doing a little bit of subtweeting?
Yeah, I don't think for as manic as this movie was and how much it threw at you, I don't think I was like 100% engaged the entire time. This movie did feel like it was probably 15 or 20 minutes too long. Because it just there's no way around it. It just takes a while before it gets to like, well, what's the point? What are we doing here? And what we kind of come to is it's like, oh, this is the story of like how this guy decides to grow up eventually or like grow out of this phase
Right.
because everyone else seems to be moving on with their lives and he's kind of stuck here. It takes a long time to get to like, oh, that's what this is a story about.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of setup before you get there, which I like. I like, that they're going into like the liquor laws in,
Yep.
Utah
Funny.
and how that kind of it's hard to be like a rebellious punk when it's like liquor stores are like there's only a couple, they all close super early.
And you can only
And
get
you have
weak
to
beer.
yeah, you get weak beer. You have to drive way out of your way to like another state to get beer. So I like that we get that, but also I don't know if that's super necessary for us to like get into this
Well,
world.
I think we're going to be doing it a lot in the next sort of 20 or so minutes, but we're going to be talking train spotting. But like, it's because
Yeah. Once you said
because
that too, it was like, ah, yeah, that's right.
it's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I didn't really see it until like literally we were just talking about it. Oh, wait a minute, this movie is so train spotting, it's ridiculous. But it's not. At the same time, train spotting starts frenetic, but we are introduced to Renton straight off the bat, and we kind of follow Renton's story. And like, no, not like we're not following Matthew Lillard because he's quite literally leading us through the movie.
Is the
It's like
narrator,
he's
yeah.
got ADHD, and he goes, "Oh, there was this time. Oh, did I ever tell you about this?" And it's like, oh, and
Yeah.
then 30
Yeah.
minutes in, we introduce all the different the mods, the rednecks, the neo-Nazis, the heavy metal, the new wavers. We have that hot kind of scene and the animation. I'm like, it just it doesn't flow in the same way that train spotting does. Train spotting has
Right.
forward
But that's
momentum.
punk rock, man. It's supposed to be chaotic and frenetic and wild and crazy.
Well, the other comparison I brought up, like this would be a good double feature, was like with Repo Man because
Yeah.
Repo Man, like this is a punk movie. Repo Man is like if you put punk music into movie form, like,
Oh yeah.
but and as crazy as Repo Man is, there's still a structure and you can
Yeah.
still follow it and you never get bored. And like, I think that's like kind of the big weakness is unlike Train Spotting, unlike Repo Man, that's really the killer of this movie is there just seems to be a little too much filler. I don't
Yeah,
know.
and you're right. This like by the time it sets up the major plot device, the movie just kind of ends. You get this like
Right.
little epilogue and you're dodgeball.
What,
And then
what would
you're
you
out.
say is the major plot movie device?
That the death of the heroin Bob, which
Right.
is like causes Steve-O's character to like wake up and realize it's like, oh yeah, I should be a lawyer and go to Harvard, which is like
Yeah,
that's what I was telling you guys. Like I was the ending kind of bummed me out, not just because
Yeah.
I liked Arrow and Bob. He was like as like punky as he was. I liked both these characters actually. I was like, they're both actually like good kids. Like they're not like shitheads.
No.
Trying so hard to be sometimes.
Right, but you could tell like they're both good, like deep down. They're not like, yeah. So I actually liked both characters, and when Harrow and Bob died, you get to like, well, then I became a lawyer, just like my dad said. And that's the part that really bummed me out, as I was like, oh,
It's also how he died too. Like he famously says in here, he hates needles. He doesn't do drugs. All he does is drink and smoke cigarettes.
Mhm.
And he's like hammered at this party, not feeling well, and he's given some crazy pills that are the girl's just like, oh no, they're just vitamins. And I remember seeing that. I'm like, god damn it. No,
Yeah.
Takes like 7 of them.
but it doesn't happen right away. Like, Matthew Lillard's like Steve-O he's like, all right, I'll get him out of here. He's hitting on Joaquin Phoenix's fucking sister, right? Summer Phoenix. Like,
Yes.
that's
Oh, is that who that was?
crazy. Yeah. I was like, you look at her, I'm like, oh my God, she looks like Joaquin Phoenix in the Parenthood
Joker.
movie.
Oh,
I was more
Parenthood.
distracted by like I couldn't tell where her bangs ended and her eyebrows began.
Yeah.
And it was like it was a very peculiar hair choice of like it was the ultimate unibrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's got that Phoenix DNA in her, like for sure. It's crazy. But he then he takes him home and he puts him down. He comes down. He like to find your best friend in like that way is like, it hits fucking hard, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's super sad.
Well, it is. I mean, so then we get that, and then kind of like you guys said, oh, I guess I'm learning my lesson. I'm going to Harvard. And we also get the flashback of them pre-punk. You know, when Bob comes, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and he's like, "Here, listen to this," and I'm like, "Okay, that's a little sweetener." But the lesson he's learned is, I just wasted 10 years of my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is where I got to the end. I'm like, okay, so the punk side of him is gone, and then we see this whole like, I only did it because Bob wanted me to, and now that Bob's dead, I guess I'm going to put a suit on and go to Harvard Law like my dad wants me to.
I'm going to take him down from the inside. The real punk.
Yeah,
right.
That's kind of the bit that left me like, well, what are we supposed to care? What was the point?
You can say the same thing as like a Dazed and Confused. Like, what's the point of that? They just go to a fucking Aerosmith concert. Who cares?
Yeah, yes, but what
it does
mean
it better.
I
agree.
My main character's entire fucking identity in the last 5 minutes is kind of goes, whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
that means
that's why you got to see the sequel.
Which Matthew Lillard's not in that one.
He did
right?
not.
I don't think so.
Matthew Lillard and Jason Segel do not return. There's a few sort of ancillary characters that come.
And it's
back.
I think maybe set in the 90s. I would imagine.
It was made actually not too long ago.
Yeah, it was fairly recent.
For you.
It's not as good as American Psycho 2, but
right, you know,
or Trainspotting 2, which I still haven't seen.
I haven't seen that.
I haven't seen it either.
I know.
I don't believe those guys from Trainspotting would. They would not all still be alive. That's like, I don't know. That drove me crazy a little bit when it's like they're all back. I'm like, no, they're
just they're all the dads and their kids are doing heroin now.
Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, Begbie would still be alive.
No,
and not in prison.
The sequel, guys, it was made in 2016.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
wow.
So it's
it's up there with Super Troopers 2.
And Beverly Hills Cop 4, longest time between. Guys, slight segue. Has anybody watched Beverly Hills Cop 4? Ryan, you fell asleep in the first 20 minutes.
Almost immediately.
Yeah. I watched an hour of it because Mrs. was sitting with me. I would have turned it off after 25 had she not been, and I abandoned the movie an hour in.
Couldn't tell you how it ended.
There are moments, just little flashes of Eddie Murphy, but the fast talking side of Eddie Murphy is now a medium fast sort of.
Yeah.
And it's just, I was annoyed because of just all of the missed opportunities that were being delivered by the lack of coherent, like snappy editing. I mean, I'm like, look at the first movie, look at Tony Scott's version, look at them, the frenetic nature, the tension, the using of the music, the action. And it is the most soulless Netflix.
They took all of that and just dumped it into the first 20 minutes of the movie where like, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is what I want. It's got the
bit of humor and you're doing the big trucks out there. They're using the same themes and they're taking the songs from the first and the second.
The third song, I'm just like, I can't.
It was like the opposite of Top Gun Maverick.
I had no desire to see that because I 1 and 2 I love. 3 was I don't even remember 3. I just remember thinking it was so bad that I don't even know if I finished it.
3 was the first one.
That's
I ever
true.
saw.
Oh, really?
Of course it fucking was.
That's a bad intro. Not even 2.
No, it just wasn't. Like 3 was on cable constantly, and I liked it.
He's still being funny and charming.
That's the thing. I might need to watch it again. But that's the thing. I didn't know from anything else. Like I loved Eddie Murphy, but I hadn't seen the previous 2 films.
Yeah, I might need to watch 3 again but I do think I actually saw 2 first, probably. And then was confused why 1 doesn't look as good.
Yeah, but then 4, you're like, why is he still a fucking beat cop in Detroit? Like, how does he keep going back to finding his way? How many times has he been back to LA in like minor capers that we don't get to see go screen? Like,
right.
When is the crossover with Bad Boys? Like, come on.
So the third one was a little bit more comedic and a little bit more so it was directed by John Landis.
Right, which is crazy.
Well. And then you had so we have a George Lucas cameo and we have, it's like.
It goes to Wonder World, right?
It's okay, yeah, Wally World or something like that. It's okay, but it's not the first. It's almost like it's pulling its punches. I think it may have been more PG-13, the third one.
Yeah, but the third one, they do bring back Serge.
Serge, yes.
So
I think we get Hector Elizondo instead of Taggart for that movie. But that sort of thing is like, at least with the fourth one, I will give them credit. It's back to being R-rated. It's like, so it's Axel, you know, just dropping all the F-bombs and being funny, and there are little moments. But it's just, I watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 in preparation, and I just, no, I shouldn't. I'm going to go watch the first one, try and forget the fourth one.
It's the cocaine of movies. And you get that, like, when you see that Simpson Bruckheimer logo opening up, and you're like, oh yeah, let's go. And then, like I said, 20 minutes in, you're like,
yeah, it's just in the same way that I've been kind of watching. I was showing Mrs. about this, and it's been watching a lot of behind the scenes of the Batman, and it's all about why the Batman looks so great, because they're just using these lenses that only focus in the middle, and they dirty up every shot. It's like, and then you look at a Netflix movie, and you couldn't be any cleaner.
That's the thing,
That's just why Batman looks like cinema, and why Beverly Hills Cop 4 looks like, I mean, just how it had a budget that it did.
It's so generic, it's unfortunate. Like, it's not like we talked about on Mending the Line. It's not hard to stylize a film and give it like an extra layer of depth. But these Netflix movies feel so flat, and I think people were talking about like that new $250 million rock movie that just looks like absolute just green screen doo-doo. Yeah.
I mean, even Red Notice was the same. Just
The Gray Man, like all these Netflix movies. Like all these movies.
Red Dawn, though, that was good. But on the same vein, like SLC Punk, it's a perfect example. That movie cost next to nothing, but it still has its look. It's got its vibe. It's got its genre. It's leaning into it. It doesn't look like a Netflix movie.
I was realizing watching this movie is the reason I've never done acid. Like, this fucking terrified me from doing many hallucinogenics for many years.
This movie probably will convince people to not do drugs. Like, if you show this to kids, it is like, oh, yeah, that does not look fun.
This scene alone, like you mentioned, the acid through his pant leg into the muscle. Like, I forgot about that scene.
It was a really good effect.
It's like they're just squeezing two chicken breasts together, like to get that shot. Like, it looks very visceral.
This if I was trying to sort of like describe the vibe of this movie to someone, it kind of reminds me, again, it's just occurred to me, but kind of like the vibe of the VHS skate tapes that we used to watch. Like, you know, like
CKY.
Just like things like Spike Jones and all that kind of stuff. And it's got that vibe. It's got a lot of cool, like, it brings the music, it does bring you into the world, and like Will says, it definitely doesn't make you want to live that life. They're all messed up. They're all drunk. They just get into fights for no reason. I mean, like that whole bit in the middle where he does that sort of 10-minute soliloquy with...
Oh, he's introducing everyone?
About the idea, the cycle of war, and then the cycle of, you know, gets onto the whole macro and then back to the micro of it all. But it's like, why? Because fuck it. We just want to fight, fundamentally.
Right. They're all
like, they're all really well, like, fleshed out characters. Every single one of them was like that had a lot of depth to them, which I appreciate. I love the relationship he has with his dad.
Yes.
With his dad, Shooter McGavin.
Shooter McGavin, Christopher McDonald.
Who you expect, because he's always this like extreme piece of shit. Like, but I like him in this movie. Like, it's kind of a change of pace.
I like that they like each other. Like, they both are like different, but it's like they are father and son. They do love each other, you know. And it's like we have a hard time communicating right now, but
the scene with the mum and dad, who I believe is separated, they're talking about him going to Harvard Law, did not play out the way I expected.
Right.
You're expecting it to be, come on, buddy, cut your hair. And it's more like they're trying to convince him, no, we were counterculture.
We were cool. Yeah.
We're hip.
I was a beatnik. I had the beard, the paisley.
We ended that war. We ended Vietnam. You know, I was at Woodstock.
There's a bit later on where they his dad picks him up and they go to lunch together.
In the Porsche.
And this is the beautiful Porsche, but they're at this like very fancy restaurant. And if you look down, like Matthew Lillard just has a hot dog on his plate.
Yeah, a hot dog. And he's like eating chips and stuff, and his dad's got red wine.
But they're having a good time, man. Like, I love that. Like, that's cool.
I did like that. It did definitely played against type, even though he's being exactly Christopher McDonald kind of thing. But
he's so supportive. Like, he's proud of his son. Like, he's not ashamed that he's expressing himself in any way. You know?
Yeah, you'd really do get the sense it's not the punk aesthetic and lifestyle that he's against. It's like he just wants him to have direction, and go somewhere. Like you do get the sense where he's like, no, it's not what you're into. That's like the problem, you know.
Well, see, it's interesting. I would argue that Jason Segel, who from the outside just looks like some, just some nerdy young guy, he's more punk
He's the most
than
unhinged
Matthew
character.
Lillard and
Yeah.
Harry and Bob together.
Yeah.
He's just got that quiet rage inside him, and he's like, he just fight anybody and smash all the windows and kick the window out of the cop car, and then eventually goes, all right, I'm gonna go to college. I'm 18. And he's like, what am I gonna do? Of course I'm gonna go to college. I graduated high school, so it's
You forget that they're kids in this movie. Like you forget that they're like from 18 to 22, I think.
So yeah, Steve-O and Harry and Bob, the other guy, they're all supposed to be like 21. Jason Segel as Mike's supposed to be 18. We also had for the fourth time, Annabeth Gish.
Annabeth Gish.
Yeah. It's like
I'm not going to say
at the beginning of this podcast.
I was waiting.
That woman that looks like that.
She looks so different in this movie too. Like she's wearing like wigs. She looks very, very different.
This podcast has taught me to recognize and know the name Annabeth Gish. So well done, guys. We have done that. But I mean, like I thought Til Schweiger. I mean, like what on earth? I mean, I first saw him in that fucking Sylvester Stallone Driven movie. That's where he was, where he was basically playing Michael Schumacher. But then he's iconic. He's amazing in Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. I loved him.
Yeah, and then they brought so much so that they brought him back to be the villain in whatever that Henry Cavill,
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I was
big bad in that, right? He's also in Beer Fest.
He showed up in that.
He's also in Beer Fest. I love him in that.
And but he was really he's has great. Some scene stealing.
He's the Begbie of this movie, but just not as like German that's what like the connections are all there. But I loved his whole vignette of he was just crazy when they go to his house to buy drugs. If you've ever had to go to your dealer's house to pick up a bag of pot, you're kind of fucking stuck there hanging out with him. But this goes like so off the rails.
It ends up with him with that massive dirty Harry-like pistol.
Hilarious.
Just like, I was just kidding.
I was gonna get the new couch anyway.
Right.
I love the bit where he's just like they're both just like Ryan is saying they just want their weed, but you've got to be polite, and he just doesn't shut up talking about his shit, and he's talking about.
He just loves showing his stuff off.
$5,000. You could buy half of this. And
goes, you see this? Look at this? This looks like a record. It's a laser disc. I thought that was great. I'm like, that's just when you go to Will's house.
Right. Yeah. But my gun is all Nerf guns, so
like, and now we get to the Criterion collection. Like, I love it. I love it.
Now this is my wall of novelizations of the different movies.
Oh, let me show you my novelization of Broken Arrow. Hold on.
Hell yeah.
I would read it. So Ryan, do you feel like it held up to your memory? Or
I mean it was one of those things, like it kind of all came flooding back. I remembered like specific scenes, specific characters, but it's not a happy rewatch. Like once it got into the meat of it, I'm like, oh, I remember like where this goes, how these characters develop, and I wasn't like super thrilled about it. But I did enjoy it, and I do recommend, like, if you like movies like Trainspotting, so to speak, like, I think this is up there. I think it's a classic in that sense. It probably never reaches the highs of a Trainspotting, but it's adjacent, I think.
If I'd seen it in 1998, if I had been that age, if I'd been sort of like, I would have been 17, 18, I remember being very into Trainspotting when I was a teenager, and Human Traffic, which is like another British drug movie, but it's more about the ecstasy world and sort of that, the clubbing lifestyle and things like that. I think it would have I would have enjoyed it. I think it would have hit, and because it was very much in that 90s of like, we're doing some, frenetic movies, and it's time of Pulp Fiction where, movies don't have to be told in like a linear fashion. So everyone's, you got Things to Do in Denver Will You Dead and 2 Days in the Valley, and everyone's like, trying to do this sort of thing. I was into it.
Yeah.
I just think like it also has created this when it's either iconic or dated. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I feel
this one didn't feel dated to me.
This one, it definitely hits in the realm. I think more just the approach feels dated. Yeah. If you know what I mean. It's very much a snip. So I'm like, I appreciated the movie. I didn't necessarily overly enjoy it. I did think Matthew Lillard is great.
Yeah.
You know, and there was definitely some get a little woozy here acting towards the end when he was
I like that.
Pop.
Yeah.
I like that scene.
But I'm like,
I-
I'm not sure I would say, hey, you have to watch this movie.
No.
You know, if to
Yeah.
people listening to the pod, I'm like, it's a movie. It's got some reason. There's reasons to watch it, but it's not going to leave you feeling in any kind of a way that the other two movies do. When I finished the other two movies, I was like, huh. And like, that was awesome. Oh, I'm feeling pretty good.
But to Will's credit, this is weirdly like a caution, like for all those movies you described, this one feels like a real cautionary tale as to what not to do versus like a Train Spotting or a Go or something like those other drug fuel movies.
I'd say The Wolf of Wall Street, the movie that made me want to do Quaaludes more than anything.
Yeah.
In the world.
Yeah.
That movie makes drugs look awesome.
Yeah, it kind of had the opposite effect of what it was intending.
Yeah.
I really liked this movie. I enjoyed it. I do agree it's probably not one where it's like you have to watch it, but also because of like things like the parties they show off and stuff, where there is a part of it where I'm like, I do remember, you know, being at parties like this. I remember meeting a guy who was very much a mark. And so there's a part of it where there's a little bit of like nostalgia for me, and I'm always gonna like movies about like, you know, kids from the 90s and stuff. Even though this is supposed to take place in the 80s.
85.
I feel like, I don't know.
And
I didn't get a very 80s vibes.
It didn't quite hit the 80s. I will hit
No, it felt more early 90s.
That is true.
Me,
it did very much feel like early 90s. But I think it's also worth pointing out, like, I like the whole Salt Lake City aspect of this. Like, if this were set in like a Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, it's just the fact that it's you get this pocket of culture in this very small, very like Mormon, you know, controlled area. I like the whole the contrast of the two things.
Yeah, and he does even specifically say it's kind of like an exploration of the fact that 50% of the people that live there aren't the religion that dominates, and like it very much dominates the culture. And like I said, the same way that you can't buy beer, you can't get it. It's like so and it's even like something that Matthew Lillard's character even says to his parents, like, we moved from New York, the epicenter of like counterculture and craziness, and to fucking Utah.
Yeah,
you know, it's like literally a line in the movie. So yeah, I did.
He's like, I didn't sell out. I bought in.
But it is very much a sort of like it is like Salt Lake City's Train Spotting. It does for Salt Lake City, like, you know, Train Spotting does for Glasgow in many ways. It does tell us kind of like this. It does feel very real. A lot of the locations you get into, the high school, it's all real places, all real locations, all real parks. You know, the real everything.
When they steal the car and then try to sink it in the Salt Lake, and they're like, why won't it sink?
Yeah,
because the fucking salt.
Lake,
so he just decides to shoot at it.
Yeah.
Why would it not sink? That was that was a funny scene.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. Like I said, it's just I appreciate what the movie was, but something I appreciated even more, I think, was just like the quirkiness, the fun, and the adventure of the world's fastest Indian. So let's change channels a little bit. Let's head down under to a guy with a Welsh, Irish, Scottish, English, Northern Irish.
For as good as an actor he is, and how versatile, I couldn't believe how unbelievable he was as a Kiwi. Like,
the thing is that
I didn't care, but it was
even
just
the reviewers, like even the Kiwi reviewers, are like, yeah, you know what, he might not be doing a Kiwi accent, but he certainly captures the idea of what it is to be this kind of like this guy. And it's like, no one cares. It's Anthony Hopkins, and he's nailing it. And I was reading in some of the trivia that like there was one day where Burt Mumrode's children visited set, and they said that Anthony Hopkins was just locked in, had a very good day as Burt, and he said the kids were like crying. And I was like, all right, okay.
But that does bring up a point I was going to ask, which is like, the movie seemed to make it seem like he didn't have a family of any kind. So he did. He had at least children, it seemed like.
Yeah. So it's a bit, they don't get too much into it. Like, he was married before. He did have another, so he talks about his twin that got crushed by a tree. He did have a brother that was crushed by a tree. He also had, I think, a stillborn sister.
Oh.
as well. So, and the other part is like, so it tells the story, goes to the
Those are
flats.
all on the blooper reel at the end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan style.
Right.
Is
He pushed the tree on the kid. That's what
you
Jackie
know,
Chan
it's
did.
like
Yeah.
a few, and it happens, but and that's okay because it's movies. It's like
Yeah.
they took a sort of they take the overview and the spirit of the story, but there are certain nuance to it that is different. Like for example,
Yeah,
it
this was no
took,
biopic, you know. This
right.
was
Right.
It took like multiple trips to the Salt Flats for him to get his record. So it kind of truncates like multiple trips, but it's
I
still.
did because I tried to look up on like Wikipedia, like what were the other land speed records for like how fast, just out of curiosity, but I didn't see his name pop up all that much.
What in the world of land speed records?
Yeah.
His is a very specific one. His is like it says at the end. It's for a sort of a stripped down 1000cc or less motorbike.
Okay.
But it's a little bit more about the idea of just taking this
Yeah, for sure.
motorcycle
It's
that's
not so
supposed to
much.
go 55 and
Right.
takes it to 200, and it's being held together in many ways by
With a-
fucking door hinges
Yeah.
and just his leg skin.
I did read that like in his workshop, all of the pistons that
Yes.
were built were the actual ones
I
that Bird had
couldn't
built,
believe
right?
that. Like, and the
Like,
tools and things like that. That
yeah.
a lot of the stuff in that
That's
workshop
cool.
was actually his stuff. That I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a nice touch, man.
Yeah.
And like, it's something that Roger Donaldson apparently made a documentary about. But he's been, when he came to making this movie, he spent 20 years.
Is he from New Zealand?
Yes, Roger Donaldson is a Kiwi. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But yeah, it took 20 years for him to bring it to getting a full feature film made out of it, which is cool. Just going back to what you were saying, 4 children. He has 4 kids, but like they don't mention the kids in the movie. I thought it was really. I like that little fucking kid next door had such a.
It's great.
Just want to pinch his cheeks. He's got a great little cheeky smile. I'm like,
this
Aw.
movie was giving me like, just because it's one of my favorites, is The Hunt for the Wilder People. Kind of gave me that similar dynamic a little bit. Like, but that's why I brought the Sam Neill thing up, because I remember him in that. I'm like, oh, I could see him in this type of role. Is this like, but Bert, it's not like a crotchety old man. He's very like happy-go-lucky and positive and upbeat.
You think it was. You think that's where it's going, and it's kind of like you see. Just he lives in basically a garage, like just on a plot of land. There's houses all around him, and he's just living in a workshop. He just wakes up, he tinkers with his motorbike. He goes down the post office. He picks up his pension, and he picks up a woman at the same time.
Immediately.
It's like, hey, you want to come to a party? And she's
like, no, I know how much money you have. No.
And it's like, it's a party in his honor. And that's the thing is, what you realize is like, as many people think he's quirky, they also think, oh, he's cool. He's this old guy that races bikes on the beach.
He's a fucking, like, he was a badass at some point. Like, you don't get really a lot of his backstory. But then at that party, when the biker gang shows up, I kept waiting for it to turn, and they're going to be like, we love you, Bird. But no, it ends in some fucking Grease style beach race.
But then they return later on, and they're like, here, mate, here's some cash.
Yeah.
Like,
I think Anthony Starr pops up as one of those bikers.
Was he?
Yeah, he's
he wasn't one of the bikers. He was he was just like one of the guys who was helping. It was Jeff. That was his name in the movie.
Gotcha.
I didn't clock him, but I did clock very young Walton Goggins.
Walton Goggins with an upsetting hairline.
Yeah, and then Bruce Greenwood as well.
Yeah.
Tiny little role. I go, wait a minute, that's Captain Pike.
Yep. I spotted him. Yep.
But like from beginning to end, it just, instead of it, like I said, there's moments where you expect it's going to do this, it expects it's going to do that. What it actually just does is it just takes you on a fun jaunt where, like you said, Ryan said, is that the sort of the challenge that we're dealing with, the antagonist that we're dealing with, is just red tape situations and challenges.
Every challenge is squashed almost immediately. Like every troubling thing he faces is ended before the next scene starts. In
a way, it does. It's like okay, I've got to get to the motel. The challenge is okay, I don't really have much money because of the cab costs so much. But then I make friends with the cross-dresser who works there. But he's just so chill about it as well. He's like, I love the bit when they're at I'm not a lady, I'm a boy. And he's like, well, whatever.
Yeah, cool. Still would.
Gets that gets the car, needs to have the trailer, but charms the guy, fixes the car, uses the guy, gets the trailer, loses a wheel, meets a Native American guy that can help him, then meets a woman who's like, oh, you know, you can fix it, get into that undercarriage over there, and then get into this undercarriage right here.
Even before that, when he goes to pick up the bike, which was shipped freight from New Zealand, the package is destroyed because they put a bunch of shit on it. He's like, no, they just lift it up, and he's like, oh, it's a good thing I packed it in all these blankets. Like, fucking great. Okay.
Yeah, there's just so many things like that where you're just like, oh, this is gonna be the thing that derails them, and then it's like, no, actually, it turns out to be fine.
I would love though when he finally gets to the salt flats and he's not registered and it just ends.
Yeah.
Dodgeball ending.
Yeah.
Credits.
Dodgeball ending.
But you could have had that at any moment in this film.
But you just honestly, you can't. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter.
You're not supposed to, because you're still going to enjoy the shit out of this movie. That by the end of it, you're damn right. I've got some tears in my eyes because it's just people being nice, and it's just like people bending over backwards for this guy.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but he's come so far. Yeah, but we got rules. Who gives a fuck about the rules? This guy's come so far. He just wants to ride his bike and see how fast it goes. Can't we just do that? And then everyone's like, yeah, okay.
Okay. Yeah, everyone just rolls over.
You still always had that sort of Damocles hanging over you. That is this movie going to end in a fiery crash?
Yeah. Once he puts, when he meets the doctor, because he's got a heart condition, the doctor gives him fucking nitroglycerin pills. I'm like, oh, these are going to go on the bike at some point. And shit, he fucking does. Like,
he's either going to power the pills or his heart. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. If that really added or did anything to the speed of the bike, but in my mind, I'm like, nice.
It's all I know about, cars and going fast is nitro. Family. Family is the only thing that can take me
so hang on. So you're saying in a world where Anthony Hopkins could star in the next Fast and Furious movie?
Hey man, he was in Mission Impossible 2.
He was.
I'm shocked he wasn't Daddy Shaw. Like how is he not Helen Mirren's husband?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Hey man, we're not done yet. There's still one more to go, right?
Yeah. The real question is, what accent would he do?
He should go American for that one. Just totally throw everyone off.
He could do it, man. It's
Rooster Cogburn.
He said that Burt Munro was the easiest role he's ever had to play in his career, simply because Munro's view on life not too different from his own. So I just kind of like. I like the way that he's, Munro's always
chicks, ride bikes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you follow Anthony Hopkins on social, like,
great.
It's always funny. Like, the difference between him and Hannibal Lecter is insane, because you watch the Silence of the Lambs and he's ripping people's faces off and eating people, and Anthony Hopkins in real life is like, I have a new friend to play piano with, and it's a little kitten and
drinking some wine, wearing hats.
I always wanted to see a movie where Hannibal Lecter and Anthony Hopkins have to go on a road trip together.
Ooh. Almost like what is it, Ocean's 13, where you get the two Julia Robertses?
Oh, Ocean's 12, yeah.
12, whatever.
God,
yeah.
That's great.
Oh, hang on. Face Off 2? You get two Hopkinses?
Or you could get Brian
Cox.
Julia Roberts and Anthony Hopkins.
You could get Brian Cox as Hannibal
Yes.
Lecter.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah.
There, okay.
The Lecterverse.
Hollywood.
Guys,
we're you write this down.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm so distracted by that idea. I had something I wanted to say there for the podcast, but now I'm just sitting and going, Brian Cox and Anthony Hopkins movie?
Now the Grumpy Old Men remakes are spinning around in my mind. Like Brian Cox and Anthony Hopkins.
That's right. I believe so Anthony Hopkins was very, very late in his life diagnosed. He's autistic. No idea. He didn't figure out till he was like in his 70s or something like that. When he was like,
shit.
Okay. Yeah, but like he's just. I think he's fascinating. I think he's just this. I don't think I've ever watched anything with him in that I didn't think like the guy just knows how to say a line. Like like even in Mission Impossible 2, which is a movie that gets worse every time you watch it, and he's got the line, it's. Well, it's going to be difficult. Well, it's Mission Impossible, Mr.
Yeah.
Mission difficult should be a walk in the park. And I just love the way he just fucking yes.
There's I believe it was a Nerd Writer video a video essay he did on Anthony Hopkins' monologue in Westworld, where he goes through every single swing of emotion that you can possibly imagine in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, and it's really like a testament to how incredible he is as an actor.
Guy's bloody ninja. But then so this movie just takes us, for the first half an hour we're in New Zealand, then we're kind of road tripping. from California. But once we, get to Utah, it's all about the Bonneville sort of flats. But then it's just, like I said, the little challenges that do turn up, they frustrate you. It keeps you interested because you are always literally and figuratively waiting for the wheels to fall off. And at some point, a wheel does fall off. It's like that pretty much describes the movie as just it's constant challenges, constant challenges, constant challenges. In the way that, what's that one, the Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness, where it's that's the opposite but the same. Because The Pursuit of Happiness is just constant pain and then 2 minutes of catharsis, the credits roll. And then, whereas this one is like constant struggle and catharsis, constant struggle and catharsis, constant struggle and catharsis. Then we get to the end, ultimate catharsis. Movie ends.
I catharted all over the place.
Yeah. Oh my God, I was covered in.
It's not like a Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and then you have this like, oh no, she was dead the whole time.
Yeah, it's much like the 1980s Paula Abdul song, "Opposites Attract." The 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah.
But this movie, he gets together with his bike and opposites attract.
How long are you sitting on that one?
Just is that the one with the cartoon cat? Which is the one that had the cartoon cat?
That's the one. That's the only.
That's the one. All right, that's the only one I know.
Yeah, I love that one. When I was a kid, I had a crush on Paula Abdul, and I thought the animated cat was cool.
Yeah. We talked about this before.
We may have, actually.
That was one drunken night. We both agreed. It was like, man, I'd kill to be that cat.
So, anything else from this movie that stuck out to you guys? Like, I thought that when we did get to the racing, the idea of this sense of speed, it does a very good job. When we got some they were making me think of Ford versus Ferrari sort of shots.
Yeah.
Following the bike going down and watching the bike go by at speed and things like that. That element of
there's only so many ways you could shoot that too, because it is just a bike going straight. It's not like twisting and turning. So they really do have this diverse catalog of shots that they use to capture the speed of this thing. And I love it that even in the beginning of the film, when he races the other bikers, of course the bike doesn't start. And then the bike does start and it zips right past them. But of course the bike doesn't turn because it's a fucking missile, which I didn't understand in the race. They had to go all the way up around the barrel and then back.
Yes, I'm assuming that it was there and back kind of race as opposed to.
Okay, because I was confused. I was like, no, he definitely won because he crossed past it. So why are they like, oh, that was a disaster? I'm like, no, he won.
Doesn't matter. Got laid.
Who is what was it? In Utah, he goes to that lady's ranch.
what was that about?
That was so because he just needed a wheel, and I love that she takes him to her dead husband's graveyard just to be like, don't worry, I am single. See, here's my husband's very dead.
Just plow me on the grave.
Yeah, right? And then the whole like almost getting bitten by a rattlesnake thing. Again, they're like throwing all these hurdles at him. It's a real Sisyphus situation here. But yeah, and then he like wakes up. You think this woman is like, oh great, she fucking died, and then he's like, then he has the line. He's like, you haven't died on me, have you? And she wakes up. I was like,
I believe it's
someone famous.
It's Diane Ladd.
Yes,
that's who it is. Nominated for 3 Academy Awards. She's in Chinatown. She's in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. She's in a bunch of stuff. She's the mother. Oh, she's Laura Dern's mum. So there you go. But yeah, so she's just like, well, look, I mean, she's she's a horny old lady that like lives in a trailer in the middle of, I mean, I'm going to say maybe Utah, maybe the Mojave. And he comes over, he's charming, and he knows how to, she's got acetylene torches and stuff. And
I need you to weld this. Yeah.
And she's like, you know what? Yeah. She plow me. And she goes, and also on the way back, come back and plow me again, please. And I'm like, yeah, good for you, man. She's a hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully for his sake, he's the world's slowest. Never mind.
Slowest Kiwi. The world's slowest Kiwi.
Yeah, no. I always come first, love.
How many nitroglycerin pills do you think he needed? He's just crushing them up and snorting them at that point.
But it's like, it doesn't, like, you know, he gets his night he spends with, it's just kind of those guys that people meet him and they want to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can come stay the night. He's just this guy that's sleeping in the back of cars. Like the only dicks on the whole movie, I think, are the Nevada State Police, who are like, you can't sleep on this road because of traffic. And I've been looking around going, what traffic? There's literally the only car for 600 miles. What are you talking about? But okay, fine, I'll start driving. But like that, you know, outside of that, you get the native guy that gives him the good luck necklace. You get the lady halfway that like plow me. You've got the guy that says you got a job anytime in LA. You've got, like I said, the transvestite who's like, anytime you want dinner, need a place to stay. Like everyone's like, nah, this guy is a leg end. And like, you know, by the time it gets to the end, everyone's just rooting for him, and so are you. And
yeah, I was too. I'm like, it's great. It's such a feel good movie, and that's why I said, like, watching it, I'm like, it felt very like a Disney production, because for all the turmoil that he faces and all the troubling things that pop up, like none of it matters. Like it's all
like
good,
I said,
man.
It does sell a dummy right at the end, where he's had his run, he's had his crash, he's on his back. You see he's probably having some pain. Camera comes in, looks like he's gone, cuts to black. And I go, oh, we're going to get the bittersweet ending of this guy always wanted to go, always wanted to cut to, oh, it's him on the phone. I did it. I go, yeah.
Yeah. Have you been pissing on my lemon tree, you little shit?
Yeah. And then you get the title card, like, by the way, he went back to Bonneville 85,000 times and won, you know, a million races. And you're like 9 more years. Like, oh, okay.
And so, like, and then, yeah, as the movie, whenever the movie was made, his record still stands. I'm not sure if it still stands to this day, but I mean, it's a cool story, and it's just, I think what it does is it shows it's something that I think inspires people that, well, one, it's never too late, but two, it's like it's the classic follow your dreams kind of thing. You know, it's this. That's why I sort of say Rudy. You know, it's more like he is the underdog, but he wants to do it. Everybody wants him to do it, and when he gets out to do it, the crowd goes wild. And that's the end of this: is that people are getting together. Like, look, everyone's trying to help him do it. But like, you know, I love it when it goes in for the safety check, and they go, "Oh, these tires, where'd you get them?" "Oh, I'll cut the tread off, mate." You know, and then like, "Well, what's this?" "Oh, that's a cork from a bottle." "And is this a hinge?" "Yeah, it's a hinge from the gate." And it's like, I can't clear this. You've got no safety. And he's like, "Well, fuck it. You know, what am I going to do? Die of old age or die of
he's like, you know? Fine, I'll wear a helmet. What more do you want? Like,
right.
Fine, pussies. But like I said, everyone is so charmed by his idea. And the fact that it's come from, like, you know, from when the movie is set, but even like New Zealand back then, and just even now, tell someone you're from New Zealand in America, like, whoa, you're from literally like this magical place.
I kept waiting for like little things or ways for him to improve the bike before he even gets out to the salt flats. Like, he's on the massage bed, and he like rips. I kept waiting for him to be like, to take pieces from that to then incorporate into the bike to make it this like super extravagant thing. But no, it's just like, it's just the bike.
One time they do it, you notice the speed wobble. He's like, all right, we need to put a lead weight. We go,
the brick,
find the metal, they make the lead weight. And they go and test it. And he's like, yeah, that didn't work. Whose stupid idea was that? With this whole
little cigar metaphor. He's just like, hey, poke holes in my cigar, man.
That was funny.
Yeah.
That's great. It's a charm. Like, he's such a charming character, and it's such a charming movie that you can't you can't be mad at it.
I mean, like, and I'd say the way you watch the movie and the face you have is the same face that Walton Goggins has got when they're just sitting there and he's talking and everyone's just like, looking at him like
enamored by him. He's infectious.
And that's what this movie is. So that, like, this one is definitely getting a watch this movie. If it's just it's something you see and you're like, you know, what is it gonna be? Trust me, trust us. But this is definitely like, no, you're gonna have a good time. Watch it with your fam, you're gonna have a good time. Watch it with your dad, watch it by yourself, whatever. We are guaranteeing thumbs up, good time. You're gonna be happy watching this movie. But there is one other movie that it's gonna put a smile on your face and an erection in your pants. Let's talk.
An erection in your heart.
It may or may not be yours, but there will be an erection there.
God damn, what a rush.
Let's talk. Let's talk Broken Arrow, guys.
Finally, motherfucker.
Oh, I tell you, it's just like, let's pick up right where we left off. What's not to like about this movie? Like I said, we got Christian Slater at the right time. We got John Travolta when he's absolutely white hot, going into, not even haven't been on Face Off yet. We're bringing in John Woo just years after the greatest action movie ever made. And here we are. We're just setting up the premise of a B-3, in this case, a B-3 stealth bomber that confoundingly, okay, I did mention it on the thread, at no point is any aircraft flown any higher than 10 feet above the ground. I said, we don't think John Woo knows how helicopters work. And it's like a B-3, like the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber is a bomber that flies at great altitude, flies for 24 hours if necessary, and it is invisible to radar. If you're invisible to radar, why are you flying in a fucking canyon? I don't care.
Well, they said they wanted to scare cattle. That was their whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But before that even starts, man, it opens with the boxing match to end all boxing matches.
Yeah. And it starts with that shot from the top as well.
Overhead, yeah.
Like just
Really
straight
cool.
off the bat, John Woo having a good old time. And then, we start off in a boxing match. We get talk about the rope-a-dope. I wonder if that's going to come in play a little bit later.
Nah.
We've got the idea of, honestly, it does set up all the stuff that comes later. Of like,
it's the entire film wrapped up in the opening.
It is. Yeah. The entire plot of the movie is in this one boxing scene. No, I love the way that, like, just even the sort of the anger of John Travolta. No, I hit you with the left. You think I'm getting another left? I hit you with the right. And I'm like, John Travolta, he's just having so much fun in this movie. He was originally supposed to be the Christian Slater role, and he took the other.
Who was supposed to be his role?
I didn't get that far.
Also, John Travolta.
Yes.
That's cool that John Travolta used his actual B-2 bomber that he owned in this movie. And thing we always bring up, like, there's something so charming about how cheesy the miniatures exploding look in this, but it fucking works, man.
God, I love
it. It's fucking great. Even I was just watching Independence Day over the weekend. I'm like, all the CGI stuff doesn't really hold up, but the miniature stuff really does.
Miniature work is awesome, man. Yeah. Like it needs to come back, because like imagine if like you put that same production value into today with like the type of like craftsmanship that's around now. I bet it would look stellar.
Yeah, I mean, look at the Battle of Helm's Deep. Look at the Lord of the Rings, then look at the Hobbit. I mean, also, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie, but the third and second like Matrix movies, when you get to Zion, a lot of that is miniature work, and it's just when you combine miniature work with CGI done right, and we've talked about this on the pod before. That is the sweet spot. That is where I'll buy anything.
Inception, like when he blows at the snow chase fight in Inception, where he, like, that whole thing is built miniatures, super. Or even Blade Runner. I think Blade Runner 2049 used a lot of miniature work too, right?
It's bigatures. Bigatures are absolutely mega. So if you don't know the plot of this movie, long story short, that you've got John Travolta, Christian Slater, co-pilot of a B-3 Spirit stealth bomber, that for some reason on this exercise is carrying real nuclear weapons.
Do live nukes. Let's go.
Real, like, showstoppers, or whatever, like they say, they're the big ones. But then John Travolta has decided that he's going to steal them, he's going to sell them, but he's also an absolute psycho. He's going to, he tests them, and it's brilliant. In one of the coolest scenes ever, actually. Is
a fucking paper thin plot, and I don't even care.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah.
It is
classic Bond villain bullshit. I'm on board.
And it just became, it's like, and you've got the thread of, like, they're always the $20 the fight. And it's like, you won this one, leave it under the stone. It's all like, it's just the rivalry between John Travolta, Christian Slater. One of my favorite bits is like when they're in the cockpit.
Oh, okay.
And it's like, and it's just when Christian Slater kind of calls him out. He's like, "No, man, you get off on it. I know you like it." And it's just that such a John Woo shot, and you just get,
Yeah.
I was
Most
laughing so
evil-
hard.
He
The
pulls
most
the
evil
gun
John
out.
Travolta eyes.
Oh my god! It's
He
like he
turns on the
comes
evil
off
John
camera,
Travolta
yeah.
switch. Yeah.
Mhm.
Just-
Pulls out the
fucking love
gun.
it.
Christian Slater sees the reflection and he's like, "Oh no!" And they get into a chair fight. Love it.
We get that moment of like, I do like it that on Christian Slater's fight. It's like, are you pointing a gun at me right now? And
Yeah.
it's like, but then from that point on, he punches him out. We've had that little bit of we've had a little bit of preamble on. We've met Samantha Mathis, Princess Peach
Yeah.
herself.
Mhm.
She's a park ranger in Utah. We've had those campers murdered.
Jeez, grisly.
Pretty brutal.
one guy falls into a fire.
Yeah. The tent shot too. His wife is in the tent sick, and she just gets. You just see the silhouettes. Fucking gnarly.
Ooh.
There's some great stunt work. Then we've got Bob Gunton from Shawshank Redemption. He's turning up, and it's just like. But once they do that, then we get the amazing crash. Then we get the Nest team. Then Delroy Lindo turns up. Then we also end up with
Kurtwood Smith is in there, right?
Yes, Kurtwood Smith is there for a little while as well. We also get who's the guy?
The dad from Monster Trucks.
The dad from Monster Trucks.
As in the John Cusack role, basically, right?
Yeah.
Why is he even in the movie? He's such a random bit.
I was expecting him to turn out to be bad or something, but that's you know.
It was a bit random. Also, Howie Long. He was supposed to be in the movie just for a little bit, but they were liking him so much.
He's good.
Yeah.
That's which I can only assume was how he got Firestorm, which we brought up on our Montana episode. It's basically.
I like the bit where it's like, it's open, it's wide open. Oh God! I thought
He's got the shave. He's just shaving. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
And he pulls the plug out. I was waiting for him to go. You think they bought it?
Yeah. And let's not forget, he only shows up for a few minutes. But Casey Biggs from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, who played Gul Damar on that show, one of the evil Cardassians who turns out to be good. We all know this, right, guys?
I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping up with the Cardassians.
Man, can't believe you had that one ready.
And the chamber, baby.
Yeah, you just waiting. But this is what we also find out that actually the term for a lost nuclear weapon is broken arrow, and even though it is a line from the movie, it is also a very real thought that I don't know which is worse.
Something so bad we have a name for it.
Yeah, one that we've got a name for it, that happens so often. We've got a name for it.
Yeah,
it's like currently, I think the U.S. is missing 6 somewhere. That they're on an ocean floor somewhere. So it's based off real life, and that's the thing
that. Yep,
you couldn't say that with a straight
Indian.
Face. Yeah, you couldn't say
based on a true story.
There's no more realism than what happens in this movie. People do get around. Like, there's a bit where I think the most, and I'm going to say this with a straight face, most unrealistic part of this movie. But it's the bit where, like, Christian Slater sees the Humvees in the distance. And he's like, they're like, and you could see they're a couple of miles away. And he takes off on a run. And in 15 seconds later, is jumping onto one of the roofs. So it's like, otherwise, he must have known the way this road winds.
Yeah. The same thing happens in A River Wild, so it doesn't matter.
And there's also another bit is like, doesn't like cement. It's like he's hiding on the boat. Like kind of like he's holding on the boat, and then he just manages to hide on the boat to wherever because we need to be at this next place so we can.
It's got like video game stealth mechanics. Built in it.
Yes, very much.
I mean, the action set pieces in this, again, because they're all practical, are so good. The bit where he takes her revolver again. They've met briefly. Like she arrests him. They fall in love right away. Of course,
sure.
She's got a pistol with who cares how many bullets, 2, 3. But he manages to take out a fucking helicopter. But you get the shot of the blades and all practical. It's so cool.
Yeah, you get them sort of jumping off the helicopter in the background. You get the shot through like
that was cool.
The rocks and stuff like that. I'm like, there's a few times going, shit, that's dangerous. And then I've seen that Christian Slater did like basically all of his stunts as well. Then I'm like,
there was definitely one stunt he didn't do though, because it was like in the mine shaft where he's like jumping down or something. Because I was watching it and I'm like, that's not Christian Slater's face. It's a very different looking guy.
That was a big jump as well.
Yeah.
And didn't we get at some point, I think it's with Samantha Mathis, is it not? But we get the classic John Woo face off. Like, gun to gun or like it's just there's never a movie there's always turns out.
Yeah.
I always watch that and I love it, but you're also like going, well, one of you just pull the trigger and this movie is over.
Yeah. It was
Right.
he's got a knife, she's got a gun. They keep doing the old switcheroo back and forth. And she's like, I don't keep it loaded. But spoiler alert.
And he buys it. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, I guess.
Well, he
Like,
just
you
lost
idiot.
in her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's basically the whole, the relationship Keanu Reeves has with Sandra Bullock and Speed, that kind of thing. Like they build a relationship through their shared trauma. In the end, they just like kiss.
So we should
like,
just base it off sex then, I guess.
Yeah.
Except for maybe you guys agree, maybe you guys don't. I thought she was really bad in this movie. Like,
I wished it had been Sandra Bullock. I don't think she's great.
I think she has that like real out of her depth kind of charm in this. Like sure, she's a park ranger, but she's, I don't know,
but she's also super good. Like, she's not out of her depth because her character can handle quite a lot. And I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
And she also has stink face the entire movie. Like, every line is like, are you gonna go do that? Like, she's just like,
that's fair.
Doing that. And I'm like,
keep in mind, this isn't her first broken arrow. This happens constantly
all the time.
But there's like, I think that, like you're saying, set pieces. There's like the build up as well to like the helicopter. You see that Christian Slater like, and it cuts to POV of flying through a thing, and then what's that? And then just suddenly the helicopter reveal. You get the helicopter scene. You get
he's doing the thing where he's like, do you hear that? Like you can kind of hear it, and then just out of nowhere it fucking appears. Yeah.
Much like John Travolta's appearance when like they turn up to the sort of thing and they're shit talking him, and he's like, what a terrible thing to say.
He's walking.
Smoking. The only thing, like the only shot I think that John Woo's done that better is the bit where Nicolas Cage gets out of the car at the beginning of Face Off and his jacket goes whoomp. Yeah, just like I was like, oh my god, that's so cool.
And all the John Woo like jumping with two guns firing we get in this movie. Awesome. There was a point where he's shooting a machine, not Howie Long, but the other guy. He's like jumping through the air. I'm alone in my room watching this, and I'm like, awesome.
I was thinking it made me think of the scene in MacGruber when he's using the Uzis, and it's just like, this can't control them. Great,
awesome.
It is the bit, it's in the mine shaft where he gets two guns, and you're like, again, the John Woo of you is like, all right, where's the dove? You know, it's like about it's about goddamn time, and
it just pans down to a dead canary, and you're like, oh no, we got to get the hell out of here.
I know what that means.
I mean, this movie fucking, of course, there's a fucking mine shaft in this movie. Of course, there's a train scene in this movie. Of course, there's helicopters exploding. It's so good.
Yeah, I know. With Delroy Lindo, that just suddenly his character dies.
Yeah.
Oh, bye, Delroy.
Well, but not before he says maybe the best Delroy Lindo line. He's like, let's give him a haircut. And then the helicopter blades just shred the fucking guys. I think you do get cool. you get a Wilhelm scream in this, right?
Not a Wilhelm, it's the other one. It's the other I can't even do it. Yeah, Howie Long getting like pushed out of the train.
You get awesome. the Will Hirsch scream.
Yeah, the Hirsch.
It's that echoing. Oh God, it's I can't even do it. Can't.
You sound more like,
but it's iconic.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I hope this nuke doesn't impale me. Yeah.
Arnold and Stallone in this movie. I mean, goddamn. This is like this. I missed this era of like the mid to late 90s where it's like this and your Con Airs, your The Rocks, like any Simpson Bruckheimer film. It's so good. Gone in 60 Seconds.
And it's because you're kind of relying on the sort of the charisma instead of it just being like, the 80s was just massive muscles and who gives a fuck. But I also like the sort of fact that, especially Christian said it, he's in over his head. He's definitely got the odds stacked against him. He's not Rambo, but it's like, I think that's kind of like, it's a bit more of the, it's not quite John McClane. It's like, there's no greater.
Yeah, he's still very capable as like a Marine pilot, like
US Air Force. Yeah, so he's Air Force, but he's done his sort of some training and things like that. But it's also just like, well, look, I was responsible for those nukes. So I'm responsible for getting them back. And then like I like what they do is they set it up well that they keep the setup by the plot device of saying that the core is wide open, which keeps Nest away, which kind of like keeps the bad guys away for a long time. And then when Nest does turn up, one of the coolest cinematic moments. It's for action movies, the setting off the nuke underground, pretty fun.
Oh yeah, the ground wave, yeah.
Yeah.
Like on Tremors,
The
that's how
ripple.
you get Tremors. Yeah. Fucking graboids, baby. I like the twist. Like, I obviously if you've seen this movie more than once, but like the twist that Howie Long is part of his crew too, because I think that whole setup, like they do a really good job of, because you have the Marines going in when the bomber goes down to try and find the nukes, and then they do, it's in the cavern, and then you get the immediate twist. He's like, "Oh no, you don't." Gun.
But I was watching it, and I was like, knowing that was coming.
Knowing it now, yeah.
But
It's
you're
so
watching it
bad.
again. He is just being a good soldier up until that point, right?
Yeah.
He's being active,
Mhm.
but he's even involved in a gunfight where bullets are bouncing next to his head. Like,
They're actually actively shooting at each other.
you almost shot me.
Yeah.
It's like,
And that guy gets shot. Like, he fucking dies.
Yeah.
so I do like, again, at the same point, like with John Travolta, it's like, can you please stop shooting your guns at the thermonuclear?
He says that so calmly too. Like,
Yeah.
that's I like the restraint in his insanity in this character versus like a Nicolas Cage would be flying off the handle.
Yeah, the restraint. I said, God damn, what a rush! I mean,
But at same, it starts out as this calm thing and then just ramps up. You know, you get that, like,
yeah, his Captain Crazy Pants nature of him does ramp up. Also, can I, for just 1 minute, talk about the best bit of production design in the entire movie is the buttons on the nuclear weapon. I've never wanted to press buttons more.
Yeah.
I think they're using
the font they use on. I just I would just spend hours pressing buttons.
I like that the remote detonator too is like a fucking a shutterbug phone for elderly people. It just says like arm, disarm, explode. Like
it's real, like something you'd see on like the A-Team. Just like one has a skull and crossbones, and the other is like, you know, it's awesome. I love it.
Fuck yeah.
So like I love the bit, like, the ground wave. I mean, it doesn't make much sense, but also I love it the way it bounces the Humvee, crashes the Nest team. And like I said, it also got like, there is a great moment, and I remember watching the movie, of, you know, him and Samantha Mathis, Kristen Slater, Samantha Mathis are trapped in the mine shaft with a thermonuclear weapon. And I remember just going, how the hell are they going to get out of that? Now, they did a bit of Chekhov's Underground River. They do mention it, but it's like,
he knows every nook and cranny of this fucking cavern for 50,000 miles. Like,
but still, I do remember in that moment going, shit.
Yeah.
How are they going to get out of this one?
I reckon you'd be fucking vaporized.
Yeah. It's a little bit of the Temple of Doom where, you know, Indiana Jones is on the rope bridge and you got the people coming from both sides and he's just in the middle, just shit.
It's like, I'll give it credit where credit's due. And I also like that, you know, when they come out of the river, that one, you're like, you know,
they don't boil to death.
Samantha Mathis is very much us going, but a fucking this is a nuclear bomb. And I do like it. You see the butterflies? Butterflies can't survive in nuclear holocaust. It's probably bullshit, but
I'd buy it in that moment.
I was waiting for the airplane where it's like, you're being hysterical, and you're just like,
just a whole line of people.
Yeah. His whole thing is that she's just cold now from the water. Okay. Yeah.
Well, a nuclear weapon will heat things up, which then takes us to yet another great set piece, which is a nuke on a train. And I feel like, you know, John Woo is like, he's definitely having fun with the America of it all. You know, he's out there. It's not the Grand Canyon, but it kind of is. You get this iconography of the American Southwest. You get very beautiful sort of like Utah.
It looks like Antelope Canyon almost, like the design, like the style.
Yeah, Lake Powell as well, I believe they feature. And then so it's like, it's classic things like, all right, we've got the Humvees and the boats and the things like that, but let's get a train. There's no classic sort of like, you know, the old westerns and stuff. And then you got a helicopter and the good guy on the train, and then we got my favorite shot of it all is the very last shot of John Travolta before he dies.
God, the insanity on his face.
Yeah.
Like he's just ready for it.
I'm just like, bring it on. I want to, just like put.
I sent you guys the gif of Willem Dafoe and Spider-Man, where he's like, oh, he's just
Yeah.
he just get his body getting fucking launched. It's so good. And like, it's so cheesy, but it's like, don't care.
And
Ear to ear smile.
And they milk that moment. Like we cut to Crash, cut to thing, and it's got even make a noise, go, and then cut to John Travolta. John Travolta turns, thump, and he just goes flying out of the train like he's folded up. Like
again, like not to bring up MacGruber again, but when he kicks cunt off the thing and he's like, "Fuck you, dude!" and he's shooting, and then you see his piss trickle down. Like it's great. It's a reason. Like that is burned into my head. I love it. I love it. I love these movies.
God, what's great about this scene too is like the moment he gets hit, it just folds in half.
Yeah.
He makes an oof sound. Like even the special is like, ugh.
Yeah.
That just put it over the top for me.
Well, this won the Academy Award for Foley art, that's for sure.
Yeah, it should.
I like that Christian said he could have pressed the button and just jumped off the plane, but he does it in the most John Woo way he can. Jump off the train, turn back, beep, you know. Like...
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Yeah. Oh my god, I even like before that where he kicks Howie Long off of the train.
Yeah. God,
it's because and it's a moment of contention because you have Howie Long's character and John Travolta are like, Howie's like, we can't do this, and they're like fighting each other, but then they hear Christians, so they're like, we need to team up again. Like, all right, and they start shooting at the side of the train for him to come down the other side. We need to put our differences aside right now.
God, insane. Love it.
Then, yeah, I do like. And then John Travolta, I love that his just general descent into like just being a complete socio/psychopath.
Yeah.
I guess, well, if they can't take a joke, he's like, well, let's just blow up the bomb anyway.
Like so much happens on this train because you have Samantha Mathis's character fighting who she presumes is like just this nerdy scientist who's a fucking Navy SEAL.
Iron Man.
Yes,
it's the guy from Iron Man.
Build the Iron Man suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess he was a fucking nerdy scientist.
I was a Navy SEAL.
I was just a nerd.
Yeah. And she like hits him with a fucking hammer, right?
Something like that. Some solid piece of metal. She's like,
hammer time.
Yeah. I was expecting her to have some sort of cool line. You thought I was just a nerd, you know, and just I don't know. There should have been some setup there. I can't even think what it'd be.
But then we do get after the explosion at the end. We do get the Hale and Carmichael embrace and formally introduce themselves to each other, which is very.
They don't know each other's fucking names.
Speed. It is like nice.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah.
But
man,
they do you
perfect movie. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Yeah, it just cuts to credits right after they kiss. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, they don't even kiss. They just hold hands. And it's just focused on the hands. And
do you see? Is there a bit where you see like a $20 bill like flutter off in the?
It's in the bushes. It's like burnt in the bushes,
and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but like correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I saw a dove.
I didn't see one either. I was definitely looking for them, and I didn't see any.
And because he puts them everywhere fucking else.
Yeah.
They're in.
Yeah, true.
They're in Face Off. They're in Paycheck.
Yep.
You know? They're in. It's it is what it is. I'm seeing Christian Slater turned down a role in Assassins to work with John Woo. Funny enough, Samantha Mathis actually asked her friend Sandra Bullock for tips on doing action scenes. Apparently, Sandra Bullock's tip was to hum the James Bond theme before every take.
Yeah. They had almost the exact same haircut. Like she looked like Sandra Bullock.
True.
They were very adjacent characters.
It was. Oh, it is. It's like I've got Sandra Bullock at home. It's like Sandra Bullock's sister or something like that.
I mean, wasn't this the same year though? 90. Speed was 95.
This is 96.
96.
Speed.
Or Speed was 97. Am I misremembering?
94.
94, yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, so then this was in that era where they're just like Speed was such a fucking runaway hit that they just started making
well, I will tell you, it was the same year as another movie. In fact, the role of Terry Carmichael was turned down. Will is going to love this fact, by the way. Is turned down by Helen Hunt, so she could do a little movie called Twister. So
never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Not familiar. No bells being rung.
Apparently, there's like a longer version as well. I think I've heard there's more action sequences, or they've been pared down. There's a lot of character development out there as well. And this is a fact that I'm glad that Ryan said earlier. Like I said, that you can. Did you find it from here or did you find it from Googling? But the portion of the score was used in Scream 2.
I did like I think I typed in because I knew it was from something I didn't know what it was. And I was like, I swear I fucking heard this before. And I just typed in Broken Arrow theme. Where else? Question mark. And it pulled up the a subreddit where I think that was for Scream 2. That someone's like, yeah, they used this same theme as Dewey's theme in Scream 2. So
Oh, no
there you
shit.
go.
That's so weird.
No fucking idea
I
why. I
thought
think they had the rights to the music. Maybe they just did. I don't know.
It's
That
weird
makes
when they do
sense.
that. Wait, hang on a second. Let's do a slight aside.
I was about to
Yeah.
go back to this.
the
Yeah.
SLC Punk thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
Oh yeah.
talk about that really quickly because I was like, it's one of two movies. I'm like, it can't be that one, but it's Will's
Yeah.
favorite. But yeah, let's talk about that really quickly. That there was
It-
a sort of like an imaginary scene or something to do with the
They-
end of
they
the
were on
world.
him
acid,
and his
right?
him and his girlfriend are doing acid and having the which we didn't even talk about. Sorry to jump back, but like the way they shot that is so crazy and frenetic. You really feel like you're like in
The
those
acid
characters'
trip was
shoes on us.
weird, where
Yeah.
suddenly like just water's flowing. And
I'm like,
just
is he murdering her? Are they fucking on a grave? Like there's a snake. He's covered in blood, but nope, it's all good.
But
Yeah.
then suddenly in a moment, a bit of like a sort of green screenage. There's a character, and then we see a sort of a Holocaust, sort of like a massive explosion in the background. And I'm
Yeah.
like, wait a minute,
I know
that-
this.
I've seen that before.
Yeah.
Will,
Yep,
was
it is.
It's from your favorite movie ever made?
It was instant. Like the moment it came up, I'm like, hey, that's from Terminator 2. That's the nuclear detonation sequence.
Yeah,
And I was
it's
like,
so
huh.
iconic. Like I remember because again, we always talk
It's the
about
house in the foreground on.
yeah, they show
Mhm.
that, yeah, for sure. And they show like watching the movie magic side of it because when they did the whole miniature thing, I'm like, it's so
Yep.
burned into my head, much like it's burned into Sarah Connor's body.
Much like the bodies in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
How?
it sticks out quite a lot because it's obviously Los Angeles.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
it is kind of like,
Mm.
I mean,
It also
Sure.
sticks out a lot, Will, because it's an independent movie made for a pittance set in Salt Lake City that has. Did they
Yeah.
steal 2 seconds of Terminator 2 and no one noticed?
Did they mirror it so it's not
That's
technically
my thing,
illegal?
it's
it's
like
not
James
mirrored.
Ca- Did they
Yeah.
ask James Cameron? That is a question that I'm like, I was like, how did they get
Yeah.
away with that?
Maybe
I
they
wonder.
didn't. I don't know.
I wonder if it's one of these like sort of like fair use for a song. Like if you use less than 14 seconds of a song, you don't have to pay copyright. Maybe it's because they're using like just 5 seconds of a shot, and she's covered like their heads are covering most of it.
Hmm.
Maybe
I'm
that's
interested
like
to know if I can make a movie using only 5 seconds of different.
Oh,
movies.
shit. What are you gonna call it? Gone in 5
Maybe.
seconds?
yeah.
The
Oh,
world's
man.
fastest Native American. That's what I'm going to call it. Okay, but yeah, that was,
Ugh.
we had to talk
Ooh.
about that because I'm like, how do we? Because
Yeah,
I was
I
like, it's
forgot, yeah.
either. Because I was like, that's Terminator 2, and then I thought, no way, maybe it's Independence Day. Because I was thinking about like the year that it was made, but I was like, as soon as we got on the thread, you're like, nope,
Right.
it is.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you look, it says in the IMDb trivia of that, like that, because I was curious too. I'm like, well, because I was watching, I think I watched this I think it was last night, but I texted you, I'm like, is that the fucking nuke shot, the LA nuke shot from T2? Sure as shit
Yeah.
it
If
was.
anyone's gonna know, it's Will, who I believe
Yeah.
didn't you just see that on the big screen? Like
Yeah, they played it at the Eagle Theater
Oh,
in
okay, yeah.
Eagle Rock, and I just went to go see the screening of that. So
Nice.
Good call.
that's probably the only movie I've seen more times than Independence Day, which Independence Day I've seen exactly 28 times. So
Oh, you kept
Are you
track.
going for a specific number or?
nope, it's just every 4th of July I rewatch it.
Oh, okay.
That's the only
Okay.
time I watched the movie, and that's how many years ago it came out. So
I haven't watched it since last July 4th.
I haven't watched it since last night.
I should really do it. But
Yeah.
don't watch the sequel. The sequel, it starts so promising for about 20 minutes, and
Oh.
then it just becomes
Mhm.
absolute garbage.
Yep.
All right, let's just see if anyone can take a guess. The Armorer has an estimation for the amount of rounds of ammo that were fired during this movie. Want to take a guess?
11
say it's in-
billion.
yeah, I was gonna say it's probably in the low 80,000s.
60,000.
Yeah.
60,000. That's
Oh.
not a bad guess, actually, Will. But yes,
Wow.
Hell
60,000 rounds of ammunition, which is, I was going to say 59,999 more than happened on the Rust set. Not getting into that one. But after the surprise success of Speed, Graham Yost's script for this film became a hot commodity, along with that of The Flood, which became Hard Rain,
Hard
which I
Rain,
believe is
yeah.
also a Christian Slater
It is, yeah. I like
which
that
is
movie.
stars Michael Douglas and is set in Japan, right? Yeah.
God damn
Damn
it!
it! I did it again.
Every
Man,
time.
I'm gonna get it right one of these times.
So yeah, I mean, like we've been saying a lot of speed. We've been saying a lot of it's the same writer, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's he made 3 movies which are all the same. He made Speed, Broken Arrow, and Hard Rain.
Well, I like Hard
Hell
Rain.
yeah.
I haven't seen it in forever. Who else was it? Was it Sam?
Morgan Freeman, isn't it?
Morgan Freeman. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I don't think I've actually seen it. I just think I've seen the trailer a lot. It was on a lot of like
It's a bank heist during a flood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Hurricane Heist, but not. I think. Yeah. There's a hurricane or a flood, or did they deliberately flood a town so they could rob a bank or something like that?
I think so. I don't know.
Oh, that would be awesome. How do you do that?
And I think that shot in it is like they built again. I remember they built like a miniature dam for them to explode to create that scene. It's a cool premise.
The only thing I've seen of that movie is I've seen Roger Ebert's review of it where he tears the movie apart, and he hated that movie.
Yes, I'm looking it up now. The critical response, particularly negative from Roger Ebert for the Chicago Sun-Times, 1 out of 4. Hard Rain is one of those movies that never convince you its stories are really happening. From beginning to end, I was acutely aware of actors being paid to stand in cold water. Suspension of my disbelief in this case would have required psychotropic medications.
Makes me want to watch it even more. Fuck you.
I know. I was going to say, sold me, Roger.
It was a $70 million movie that made $20 million and is regarded as the biggest flop of 1998. Still want to watch it. Small town Indiana, guys.
Yeah. I think I probably brought this up mentioning that episode.
Yeah.
I
think we came close to picking
Yes, it's during a gang attempts to pull off a heist and survive man-made treachery during a heavy rainstorm. So amidst a natural disaster. I still want to watch it.
Yeah. I remember it being good. I feel like there's definitely a scene where Christian Slater is being hunted and then he electrocutes someone because water. I feel like that's probably a thing.
He goes to Action Park and he's like takes them into those swamps and they get eaten by snakes. So
I will say I just watched, if you guys get a chance to watch the movie Crawl that is set in Florida, where there's a hurricane and the girl has to rescue her dad. And then because it gets flooded, I just thought it was going to be one alligator. There are many alligators in this movie.
Hell yeah.
It may be the most Florida movie.
But it's called Crawl, right? Like
Crawl, yeah.
Why? That's sort of like that.
Yeah, it's because Pauly Shore shows up as his character in Son-in-Law.
Oh god,
the origin story.
Does he get eaten by an alligator? I'll watch it if he's eaten by an alligator.
Fucking balls on that guy.
Sticking on the theme of Roger Ebert, actually, when it comes to the review of his review of Broken Arrow, this is the only time that Roger Ebert convinced Gene Siskel to change his mind. Siskel initially gave it a marginal thumbs up, and after Siskel actually changed his mind.
Roger, what are you doing?
Down. Whereas for me, look, okay, I definitely asked this question myself. Ebert queried the purpose of a digital readout on a bomb. Who's ever going to see it?
Shut up, Roger.
Shut up, nerd.
But shut up. It's like, this movie.
Yeah, but the buttons.
This movie gets 3 thumbs up from me from the nuclear fallout damage because I've got extra thumbs on my hands.
Yeah.
This movie is an absolute home run of just it's a John Woo movie.
It's so good.
With nuclear weapons. Just win-win, win-win.
I mean, I think with this, he was able to perfect his art with like Face Off. You know, it definitely feels like a dry run towards that, like the insanity of it all.
I wouldn't say dry run. I was moist the whole movie.
You could see like he took a lot of these, like, what if this was just even fucking crazier?
Yeah.
What if we did the same thing, but we switched their fucking faces?
Still.
Shut up and take my money.
Still, and I think my favorite fact of Face Off is Nicolas Cage finished Con Air, got on a plane, got off the plane, and started shooting Face Off the next day.
Right? Yeah.
And the very first scene was the last scene of the movie. I'm like, that guy, he's
Fuck
crazy. All right. Well, we've decided that, this one's a banger. The World's Fastest Indian is definitely worth a watch, and SLC Punk is something to explore if you're getting into movies, but it may not be for everybody. But this is not what this podcast is about. This podcast is not about which movie is better or more fun. It is about which movie is the most Utah. And now we touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but like I said, we are getting three very different Utahs. We are getting the iconography of somewhere that's world famous, being the Bonneville Salt Flats. We've got the iconography of just, like Utah and, their natural parks and Zion and stuff like that in Broken Arrow. And in SLC Punk, we are getting a snapshot. But we are getting very realistic and neck deep in Salt Lake City. So does somebody want to start? Because on this one, it's wide open for me.
You can't take the Utah out of any of these movies, really. You definitely, I mean, the world's fast. I mean, that's the thing with the world's fastest Indian is it's only the Bonneville Salt Flats, like. But it is arguably iconic. The most. It's the most like crucial thing to the entire film.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a small taste of what Utah has to offer.
And like those salt flats are the place of some of the most historically iconic speed records of all time. Yeah. Like the plot point is that even this guy from New Zealand has always wanted to go to this hallowed ground, and you can.
Have you ever been?
Have you ever been? No, I have. I think I've flown over it. But I have honestly. I've wanted to go. I think it'd be fun to go for Speed Week. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with because the Brits had for a while we had the land speed record. It was just awesome. They basically took like a jet fighter and strapped two jets onto the side.
I looked that up and it went like 750 miles an hour.
Oh my god, yes. Wow. Yeah, I remember like the RAF pilot that was doing it. Like they had
crazy.
That's what I mean. So for me, like even the Salt Flats for me are like, no, kind of like a legendary place. And then kind of like you're saying, well, you can't take the Utah out of SLC Punk. Salt Lake City's in the bloody title.
Yeah.
And then, Broken Arrow is very specifically set in Utah, very specifically because it does give them the space to be able to set off a nuke and not kill anybody, but also gives them the iconography. So that's what I'm saying. For me, it's a 3-horse race and it's a bloody tie right now.
In my gut, it's going to the world's fastest Indian because much like what was the Close Encounters, like how it all kind of leads up to this specific place that is so important to the state. That was kind of where my gut's going. Like Broken Arrow, sure, but if I were from Utah, I probably wouldn't claim, even though it fucking rules, wouldn't claim Broken Arrow as like my state movie. Same thing with SLC Punk is because it's such a small like subculture of people that doesn't really capture the state as a whole, whereas the world's fastest Indian, I think like it's so much more aspirational for the state, like showing that anyone can do this. Like anyone could build a fucking motorcycle and go to the Bonneville Salt Flats and
and it's like I kind of get your sort of thinking on that as well as that as we get to Utah and you're meeting the people or just meeting the people attracted by the Salt Flats, how everyone is just nice, and everybody kind of wants to help. I would like to say, but the thing is like don't rule out SLC Punk. I mean, it might be just sort of Salt Lake City, but like we were always talking Train Spotting. Like Train Spotting is basically a story about a bunch of guys in Glasgow, but it ended up being the most iconic Scottish movie still. It's people still go that represents.
But we haven't seen T2, so I don't know.
Terminator 2, we saw that.
Terrifier 2, yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, like I'm not disagreeing with you, Ryan. I was surprised, but I'm not disagreeing with you because I'm like. I was
just based off my gut alone, like the way it was. Like,
but I'm interested to see, Will, where are you lying on this one?
See, I'm approaching it from like, to me, my gut's saying SLC Punk because, well, yes, we're following the punks, which is an extremely, and even they admit it's basically just the two of them, a super small subculture, but they're bumping up against the mainstream culture for the entire movie. Like. You get more of a sense of what Utah is like in general for the people who live there. I mean, Salt Lake City is their biggest city, right? Like by a lot. So that living there, that would be most people's experience of living. Like it's closer to like what they would experience.
It's a fair point. I mean, even not just butting up against like just the normies, but like it's also butting up against sort of like the religious side. I mean, not that I'm saying they're not normies, but like like the Mormon side of Salt Lake City as well. I like that. That's a really.
That said, if it was called Park City Punk, would have been a fucking batshit insane film.
It would have been an awesome skiing movie.
Yeah.
But like, no, actually, Will. That is great. Yeah. In my heart, agreeing with Ryan, but in my brain, you're not wrong. I actually, because as you're saying that, I'm like, okay, you know what? It wasn't just the punks. We do get much more of an idea of not just the city, but then they get into the kind of like the magical nuance of, I don't know if you've ever been to Salt Lake City. I sort of like, I got off the plane because I was going to Park City, and like I was like, oh, I remember like going, oh, it's no wonder that the Mormons settled here, because it kind of feels like I'm sitting on top of Mount Olympus.
It's a mystical place.
You're ringed by these mountains, and there was that bit in the movie as well in SLC Punk where they go out onto their salt flat that they've got there, but it's on very sort of like shallow water, and it's got this sort of this mystical stillness to it as well. We also get a sense of geography when we had that moment where they drive an hour and a half to the next state over, to get their beer. So I'm like, all right, okay. As much as the world's fastest Indian is finishing first on speed, I feel like right now for me, SLC Punk is in the lead.
Yeah.
The Salt Flats, the Bonneville thing, just what I kept thinking about is I'm like, it's a little bit more international than the rest of the state because so many people from around the world come there.
Right.
It's not as representative of the state itself, even though it is iconic.
True.
It is part of the state. It's so specifically tied to like one kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, with Speed Week, you're right. We're not meeting Utahns. Is that? But it's like it's a collection of people with the same shared sort of enthusiasm for speed. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, it's.
Yeah.
I think SLC Punk is like is nosing
It's definitely
its
the
way
front
ahead.
runner. Yeah.
Granted, it didn't have any, it had just normal smoking instead of cool smoking.
Yeah.
Nobody had two guns at the same time.
So in your brain, it's SLC Punk. In your heart, it's it's the world's fastest Indian, but in your dick, it's Broken Arrow.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
I got there.
Hell yes.
100% accurate.
Yeah.
My
It's the whole fuck, marry, kill.
Yeah. I'm 100% fucking Broken Arrow.
Yeah. You're breaking that arrow for sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh, his arrow is anything but broken on this one.
So Ryan, how you feel? I'm liking.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's such a really great perspective on it that I didn't think about. Like, you do get so much more of the culture as a whole, be it positive or not. I think it paints a much broader picture of Utah in general than, say, just racing a motorcycle real fast or blowing up part of the world. I don't know.
Or just burning people around the world as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It looks like I'm surprised.
SLC,
Man,
wow. I am too. I'm always surprised by this podcast.
Yeah.
Always, every time.
Yeah.
And then I look back at the old winners. I'm like, what were we thinking?
Giant spider invasion. Really? Was that our best?
Classic movie. All right. So guys, for the 50th time, for the 50th state here at the United States of a Movie podcast, the official movie to represent Utah, at least until we come back around in another season to pick some other movies, is SLC Punk from 1998. Written and directed by James Meridino, Matthew Lillard, Jason Segel, Annabeth Gish, Till Schweiger, Michael Gujian. I think it is available on Tubi.
Tubi, yeah.
Which is okay. So it is not Pluto TV. Remember, do not watch on Pluto TV ever. Tubi, you can watch movies on Tubi. It's pretty good. They'll give you 2 or 3 ad breaks at the right time, and then they let the movie finish off, and it's not interrupted. Yeah, SLC Punk. So watch it, or don't watch it.
I can't believe we've done this over 50 times now, and we've never been wrong once.
Never once. No.
Never happened,
Absolutely nailed
I also don't read any of our comments, so
I'm sure. I know I'm popular on Facebook, so it's
You made a lot of friends there. All right, so something else, though, of course, that we need to do is, before we move on, to talk about what we'll be doing next on the show, is we also have to talk about the Orso Rans when it comes to Utah. We did touch on one a bit earlier, which was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I would have liked to have watched that, though I have seen it. Another one that was up there was Footloose, apparently. But I'm not sure if Footloose is set there, but it is shot there. And another movie that was shot there but not set there, iconic movie actually, The Sandlot.
Yeah, I saw that too. And
Yep.
I mentioned like 127 hours. I was just like, I don't want to. That movie's too long.
I've
It's fucking terrible. It's so terrible.
give the guy a hand. Yeah, I've never seen 127 hours. I did read the book. I think so. I'm not sure I want to watch James Franco cut through his arm.
That Danny Boyle, right?
Danny Boyle movie.
Yeah.
Did
we talk to him on Right This Minute, or am I thinking of something else?
What, the actual guy?
Yeah,
James
didn't
Franco?
we?
I'm not sure. You know what? I was kind of doing the math on how many episodes I did. It was 4,997 episodes.
Who's
And
counting?
you remember everybody you talked to.
So yeah, 5,000 episodes of that TV show. So there's one or two things that have blurred together over time. There is I am definitely one of those people that as well, when Facebook memories pop up and I go, oh, hey, I went to Cambodia.
Yeah.
I forgot going to a whole country. So
I did interview Little Dicky.
I tell you what, so another movie, though, I'm interested. Yes, I did interview Little Dicky. Very fucking excited. The Lone Ranger, the new one, which I actually only watched.
Oh, yeah, you're a fan of that. Yeah.
The most canceled movie in history.
The most cancelled movie in the history of the world. Actually, quite fun. I watched it with my dad. My dad was the one that said, no, this movie's good. And Zen always said it was good. And Quentin Tarantino put it in his top 10 of the year. And I finally watched it. I recommend it. I think it's on Disney, guys.
Doesn't he jump a horse onto a train?
Yes.
Yeah. That's the one thing Broken Arrow is missing.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. That's it. That's the only bit. But any other movies, guys? I mean, because there's certain ones that claim, because they've got scenes in there, like Independence Day. You were just talking about it.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the list. Better Off Dead
Crusade,
pops up.
Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, because it starts in Utah. We have that famous opening scene. It also talks about Con Air.
Yeah. Jeremiah Johnson's probably a popular one, I would imagine.
My dad would have loved us to have covered that one. That's one of his favorite westerns. I fall asleep every time.
A movie I woke up to yesterday was Austin Powers Goldmember. Sometimes
that will wake anybody up.
You fall asleep with YouTube on and it just keeps autoplaying.
Oh, this is interesting. Oh man. So the Andromeda Strain. So 70s movie. It's written by Michael Crichton. That book was a banger. I have to be honest, edge of my seat book, but honestly, it's set underground the entire time. But that would have been an interesting one to touch.
I remember that movie as being pretty dull. I can't speak to the book. I've never read it. But,
I did watch the movie, but the book was just amazing. But there was one that you guys thought about doing to torture me with. Do you guys remember that?
Hereditary.
Oh, Hereditary.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just getting into it. I mean, Cannibal the Musical, apparently. But
I do love that
Wild
movie.
West, the third movie in Will's W trilogy.
That's right. We all
Yes.
So honestly, this is I think we did a good job with our movies, and I really like where we ended up with SLC Punk. But I can see, I mean, at least 10 movies, of which a few of those are absolute bangers.
Mission Impossible 2.
I mean, we've got Revenge of the Ninja and Guyver Dark Hero on here. I mean,
I almost picked that, but I've only seen the Guyver with Mark Hamill.
With Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
It just came out on 4K Blu-ray. Hell yeah.
Have you seen that movie, Ollie?
Which one?
Guyver.
The Guyver.
The Guyver.
The Guyver.
Not MacGyver.
Yeah, I MacGyvered like crazy as a kid, but the Guyver? No, never.
Yeah.
Guyver is imagine Power Rangers, R-rated. It's one guy, and instead of tights, it's like alien armor.
Sounds like the Wraith.
But same level of VFX.
Sounds like the Wraith.
He basically fights a bunch of Ninja Turtles, but it's played and voiced by David Hayter, who is
That's
Solid
the second
Snake.
one.
Is that the second one? He's not.
That's Guyver 2 Dark Hero, which is the one I've seen the most because it has Solid Snake in it.
Did he write it too?
No, God, no. If he wrote it, it'd be better because he wrote the first two X-Men movies. So
that's what it was. Yeah.
Ooh, man, there's some interesting movies.
That's
So yeah,
it,
Utah, you're still wide open for some fun, but I mean, I think Utah is like quite surprisingly has
Yeah.
absolute like a huge library of movies that we
Yeah.
can dig into.
I'm still happy
together.
with the 3 that we picked. I think they were
Yeah,
a
same.
Me
great
too.
kind of
Honestly, I'm surprised,
Totally.
but I'm happy with where we ended up crowning
Yeah.
our 50th champion here, which means now, Ryan, you can finish that awesome World Tour T-shirt.
Yeah.
That we're definitely going to be bringing.
God, it's gonna be so good, guys.
A shirt made for no one.
That's all right. We're going to send it to everyone that came on the show. I'll tell you this much. So instead of going to the magical pen, because there is no need to go to the magical pen right now until we start season 2, what is to talk about is where we're going to be going next. So what we are going to be doing is we're going to hold ourselves a bracket. We've been talking about it. We're probably going to take maybe a week off, maybe have a re-release, but we're really going to get in. We're going to have a bracket where we're going to take it from 50 all the way down to 1 champion, the ultimate American movie, that we're going to say defines America for season
Of the
1.
world,
And
yeah.
then after that, I think we're also going to have some fun that we've been touching on wanting to do some specials. The idea of the best road trip movie, the best foreign movie set in America. I think maybe some sci-fi. I mean, honestly, I've been
The
trying
most
to find
submarine movie.
There it is. It's 100% what I was building up to. We're going to do a submarine special. So we do have some fun in the future before we roll around and start making our way through the States once again. So stay tuned. As always, thank you so much for supporting us. Very quickly, if you're watching us on YouTube, every day, our audience is growing on YouTube, and we really do appreciate you guys. I love it when you get into the comments. Please continue to do that. Please sign up and notifications or subscribe if you haven't. Tell your friends as well, because now that we've finished all 50 states, it's time to binge. That was my
no
favorite
fucking excuse.
my favorite comment, I think, on a video I did from a couple of weeks ago, that someone said, "This is what you guys do? Oh my God, I have to listen to every episode." I'm like, yes, you do.
Yes, you do. Legally, you have to.
If you are listening to us as well, do us a favor, if you haven't already, give us a rating. It just takes a couple of minutes. Share it with somebody as well. Come have some fun with us on our Facebook page, on our Reddit, on my social media as That Englishman in Texas, or Ollie Pettigrew, with Will as entitled Millennial. And also, don't forget to get your amazing just movie merch, not just podcast merch, movie merch, which you can get from Ryan's store, Rhino Digital. You can find him on Threadless, on Etsy, on everything else. Fellas, as always, what a pleasure. I feel like I'm going to go downstairs and watch Broken Arrow again.
Hard rain for me, baby.
I'm
doing Face Off.
I can't wait to dig back in to our 50 winners and then go back down memory lane, but eventually crown ourselves a champion. So from us, the United States of a Movie podcast, from me, from Ryan, and from Will, once again, thank you for joining us for this episode of the United States of a Movie podcast. We will see you next time.